Good evening, esteemed listeners. This evening, we shall embark upon a leisurely and serene exploration into the profound depths of ancient Greek mythology and the tranquil annals of legendary history. We invite you to soften the illumination around you, nestle comfortably beneath your covers, and permit the clamor and exigencies of the day to gently recede into oblivion. At the world's most distant occidental boundary, precisely where the sun concludes its daily celestial transit and descends into the terrestrial expanse, there flourishes a botanical marvel utterly distinct from any other. One might readily envision it standing in solitary grandeur upon a verdant knoll, its expansive boughs laden with exquisite fruits that radiate an effulgence akin to captured solar brilliance. Yet, this magnificent arboreal specimen is not without companionship. Enveloped around its venerable trunk, with the stoic patience of an ancient monolith, reposes Ladon, a formidable dragon whose 100 vigilant eyes are perpetually open, and whose steady respiration has, over countless centuries, served as a profound marker of time's ceaseless flow. Indeed, Ladon deviates significantly from the archetype of the ferocious, gold-hoarding draconic figures prevalent in subsequent narratives. He embodies a more subdued, an intrinsically eternal essence. His formidable scales possess a muted bronze luminescence, rendered exquisitely smooth and burnished by the ceaseless caress of innumerable years of prevailing winds and environmental elements. Each of his formidable 100 eyes operates with an independent rhythm, collectively orchestrating a delicate, mesmerizing tableau reminiscent of stellar bodies materializing and vanishing in a languid, choreographic display across the nocturnal firmament. Certain eyes meticulously survey the distant horizon. Others intently scrutinize the resplendent golden fruit suspended above, while still others appear to direct their gaze inward, as if absorbed in meditations too profound and abstruse for mortal comprehension. This hallowed tree, which Ladon so diligently safeguards, is the sacred possession of Hera, the venerable queen of the Olympian deities, and its fabled golden apples are reputed to bestow the coveted gift of immortality upon those fortunate enough to partake of them. Nevertheless, one would not observe Ladon restlessly patrolling his domain or unleashing torrents of fiery breath upon potential trespassers. Instead, he has seamlessly integrated himself into a rhythmic existence as ancient and fundamental as the very earth itself. His colossal physique gently ascends and descends with each measured inhalation and exhalation, producing a sound evocative of distant oceanic undulations. When the gentle zephyr stirs the verdant foliage overhead, he occasionally elevates his majestic head ever so slightly, as if heeding the soft, familiar whisper of an old confidant. What profound contemplations might occupy the mind of a dragon during the protracted, silent epochs of eternity? Perhaps he recollects the momentous day when Hera first escorted him to this sacred locale, how she addressed him not as a mere subordinate, but as a revered custodian of something inestimably precious. The golden apples transcended mere fruit. They represented the very essence of hope, the sublime promise that certain elements within this terrestrial realm possessed the capacity for perpetual existence. And Ladon, with his innate wisdom, comprehended that his designated role was not to be a creature of ferocity or terror, but rather to embody presence, constancy, and unwavering steadfastness. The verdant garden encircling the tree is meticulously tended by the Hesperides, the enchanting evening nymphs, whose melodious voices harmonize exquisitely with their diligent labors. Their ethereal singing intertwines seamlessly with the resonant cadence of Ladon's breathing, collectively weaving a timeless lullaby that has reverberated throughout this hallowed place since the dawn of creation. They navigate the garden with the graceful fluidity of dancers, assiduously watering the roots, meticulously pruning the branches, and diligently gathering any fallen leaves. Occasionally, they pause to tenderly trace their hands along Ladon's warm, textured scales, eliciting from him a contented rumble, a sound reminiscent of distant thunder on a balmy summer evening. One might naturally ponder whether Ladon experiences moments of solitude during his perpetual vigil. However, the very concept of loneliness necessitates a distinct awareness of the passage of time. For Ladon, time operates on an entirely different continuum. Each day seamlessly merges into the next, much like water seeking its natural level. The sun ascends, casting elongated golden shafts of light through the apple branches. It then ascends to its zenith, thoroughly warming his bronze scales until they become almost too hot to the touch. Subsequently, it descends, painting the celestial canvas in magnificent hues of rose and amber, colors that perfectly echo the resplendent fruit he meticulously guards. And through all these cyclical transformations, Ladon observes with patient, unwavering eyes, his immutable presence as dependable and predictable as the earth's changing seasons. The golden apples themselves appear to pulsate with an inherent, gentle luminosity, particularly during the ethereal hours preceding dawn. Should one be fortunate enough to observe them at close proximity, it would become evident that they are not perfectly spherical, unlike conventional fruit. Instead, they are subtly elongated, possessing a flawless skin devoid of any blemishes, entirely untouched by the ravages of age or decay. When stirred by the gentle breeze, they emit a soft, harmonious chiming sound as they lightly brush against each other, a delicate music reminiscent of distant bells. Ladon has been privy to this enchanting melody for such an extended duration that it has become an intrinsic component of his heartbeat, an integral part of his respiration, and an essential element of his profound dreams. Indeed, even dragons are capable of dreaming. In his slumber, Ladon occasionally experiences prophetic visions of heroes who will eventually seek these coveted apples, not the violent brigands or opportunistic thieves depicted in some tales, but rather individuals propelled by profound affection, by desperate exigency, and by the quintessential human yearning to preserve that which is most precious. He perceives their visages long before their actual arrival, instinctively recognizing their approaching footsteps upon the winding path that leads to his sacred garden. And though his paramount duty is to safeguard the apples, he experiences a sentiment akin to profound compassion for these earnest seekers, understanding their innate hunger for permanence in a transient world where all things are destined to eventually fade. The most celebrated of these illustrious visitors was Heracles, the preeminent hero whose unparalleled physical might was rivaled only by the profound turbulence of his noble heart. When Heracles finally reached the hallowed garden, his form covered in the dust of his arduous odyssey, Ladon evinced no surprise. He had, in fact, been dreaming of this pivotal moment for countless years. The hero approached with deliberate slowness, not with the arrogant swagger one might anticipate, but rather with the meticulous reverence of an individual who deeply comprehends the sanctity of such a place. Heracles did not engage Ladon in combat, notwithstanding conflicting accounts in some narratives. Instead, he chose to sit beneath the majestic tree for 3 days and 3 nights, conversing softly with the ancient dragon about his formidable labors, his profound regrets, and his fervent hope that by successfully completing these seemingly impossible tasks, he might ultimately discover a measure of inner tranquility. Ladon listened intently with his 100 eyes, and within those profound ocular depths, Heracles perceived not the unthinking voracity of a savage beast, but rather the profound weariness of an immortal soul burdened by an eternal charge. On the 3rd night, precisely as the moon ascended to its zenith, Ladon performed an unprecedented act. He simultaneously closed all 100 of his eyes and succumbed to a deep, complete slumber, thereby permitting Heracles to procure the apples he so desperately required. This was not an act of defeat or cunning deception. It was, instead, an act of profound recognition, one esteemed guardian acknowledging another, one eternal task honoring another. As Heracles departed, he gently placed his hand upon Ladon's magnificent head, a gesture of profound gratitude that the dragon carries with him to this very day. However, that momentous event transpired long ago. Heracles successfully completed his arduous labors and ultimately attained his much-sought peace. The resplendent golden apples were duly restored to their rightful tree, and Ladon unhesitatingly resumed his eternal watch. The world beyond the confines of the garden underwent myriad transformations, both subtle and profoundly dramatic. Mighty empires emerged and subsequently crumbled. Novel deities garnered fervent worshippers, while ancient ones gradually receded into mere whispers of memory, and mortal beings devised innovative methodologies to quantify time, distance, and intrinsic worth. None of these external vicissitudes, however, impinged upon the serene garden where Ladon steadfastly maintained his vigil. Here, the immutable rhythm persists. Dawn's ethereal light gently filters through the golden foliage. The soft, harmonious singing of the Hesperides resonates as they meticulously tend their eternal garden. The gentle whisper of the wind rustles through immortal branches, and perpetually, the steady, rhythmic breathing of the dragon, who oversees it all, his 100 eyes mirroring the ever-shifting light, his profound presence serving as an unwavering promise that certain elements endure not through brute force or clever stratagem, but through the simple, profound choice to remain perpetually faithful to that which holds the most profound significance. Should one be afforded the extraordinary opportunity to visit Ladon today, one would discover him precisely as he has always been. Majestically coiled around the base of the resplendent golden tree, his scales radiating warmth from the sun's gentle embrace, his eyes observing with an ancient, patient wisdom. He might subtly elevate his magnificent head as one approaches, not as a menacing gesture, but rather as a profound greeting, recognizing within you another soul, earnestly seeking something enduring in a perpetually transient world. And if one were to remain exceptionally quiet, exceptionally still, one might discern within his rhythmic breathing the resonant echo of all narratives yet to unfold, all the silent, steadfast guardians who vigilantly watch over those invaluable treasures we simply cannot bear to relinquish. What other patient custodians might we unearth in the serene enclaves of ancient Greece? What other souls discovered profound meaning not in grandiose adventures or heroic exploits, but in the consistent, tranquil rhythms of daily devotion. Long before legendary heroes such as Heracles traversed the earth, before magnificent temples majestically ascended on towering hilltops and gleaming marble columns shimmered under the Mediterranean sun, the earliest inhabitants of Greece made a groundbreaking discovery that would irrevocably transform the entire world. They learned to coax the earth into yielding its bounteous treasures, not through arduous mining or perilous hunting, but through the patient, synergistic partnership between diligent human hands and dormant seeds. This, then, is the compelling narrative of those often forgotten pioneers, the primordial farmers who ingeniously transformed wild grasses into abundant golden wheat, who meticulously cultivated scattered nomadic tribes into settled, flourishing communities, and who ultimately instilled in humanity an enduring trust in the promise of tomorrow's harvest. Envision the pristine landscape of ancient Greece as it existed 8 millennia ago. Undulating hills blanketed in a rich tapestry of wild herbs that suffused the air with their intoxicating perfume with every gentle breeze. Expansive oak groves where acorns descended in autumn as prolifically as rainfall. Verdant meadows interspersed with wild barley and wheat, flourishing wherever the wind had dispersed the seeds of their ancestral predecessors. The indigenous people who then inhabited this region were predominantly nomads, meticulously tracking game animals through the changing seasons, diligently gathering wild berries and nuts, their existence perpetually subject to the capricious and unpredictable whims of nature. However, in a secluded valley situated not far from the locale that would one day evolve into the venerable city of Athens, a sagacious woman, whose name has regrettably been lost to the annals of history, made an astute observation that fundamentally altered everything. She astutely noted that wherever her tribe had established temporary camps and subsequently departed, leaving behind the remnants of their communal meals, scattered grains, discarded fruit seeds, and various vegetable scraps, new, vigorous plants consistently emerged the following season. This phenomenon was not the result of magic, although it must have initially appeared profoundly magical. It was instead the Earth's inherent capacity to respond to human cooperation, marking the seminal commencement of agriculture's ancient dialogue between deliberate intention and fervent hope. Her name might well have been Melissa, a term signifying bee in ancient Greek, for she possessed an intrinsic inclination towards the meticulous tasks of gathering and preserving, much like her industrious insect namesake. Each morning, she would diligently traverse the areas where her people had encamped in preceding years, carefully scrutinizing the volunteer plants that spontaneously grew there. Through painstaking observation, she learned to discern the robust stalks that yielded the most abundant grain, the resilient vines that bore the sweetest fruit, and the nourishing roots that effectively stored the most sustenance through the lean, unforgiving winter months. Through the lean winter months, a period often fraught with uncertainty and privation, Melissa's groundbreaking realization was not the product of a sudden dramatic epiphany or some celestial revelation. Rather, it meticulously unfolded through countless minute observations, a series of cautious experiments, and an unwavering commitment to patient waiting. She intentionally began to scatter seeds in particular locations, hoping to revisit these spots later. Systematically, she cleared small sections of earth, meticulously removing intrusive weeds and obstructive stones to afford her chosen botanical specimens ample space to flourish. Over time, she developed an uncanny ability to decipher the subtle cues from the environment that indicated when the soil was optimally prepared for planting, when young seedlings thirsted for water, and when the maturing grain was finally ripe for harvest. Her tribal cohorts observed her agricultural endeavors with a curious blend of intrigue and deep-seated skepticism. They questioned the rationale behind dedicating such extensive effort to nurturing plants in a fixed location when the untamed wilderness already offered an abundant array of sustenance. Why relinquish the freedom of a nomadic existence, perpetually following the migratory patterns of game herds for the confines of a single valley? Yet Melissa possessed a profound insight that eluded them. She had envisioned the profound potential for an unprecedented era of plenty, an enduring sense of security, and the emergence of settled communities capable of thriving beyond the demographic limitations imposed by a purely hunting and gathering subsistence. Her initial significant triumph was achieved with emmer wheat, an ancient variety of grain indigenous to the entire region. In stark contrast to contemporary wheat, with its plump, conveniently harvested kernels, emmer presented a formidable and resilient challenge. Its grains tenaciously adhered to their protective husks, necessitating a laborious and precise processing method to render them palatable. Nevertheless, its inherent hardiness allowed it to prosper even in infertile soil and under unpredictable climatic conditions. Melissa diligently studied its growth cycles, ascertaining its preference for well-drained hillsides and a strategy of autumn planting. She painstakingly selected and preserved the finest seeds from each yield, progressively cultivating more robust and fruitful strains over successive seasons. The agricultural labor proved far more arduous than anyone had initially conceived. Preparing the ground demanded incessant hours of toil with rudimentary tools, involving the arduous task of extracting tree stumps, relocating heavy stones, and breaking apart stubbornly compacted earth. Planting itself necessitated meticulous vigilance regarding capricious weather patterns, the nuanced conditions of the soil, and a precise sense of timing that critically differentiated between a bountiful harvest and utter crop failure. Weeding became an incessant, daily chore throughout the growing period, a slow and deliberate regimen of safeguarding the cultivated plants, while rigorously eliminating their unwanted competitors. And the harvest, in its turn, presented its own formidable obstacles. Cutting the grain by hand, laboriously threshing it to separate the precious seeds from the stalks, and then winnowing to meticulously cleanse away the residual chaff and undesirable debris. However, the eventual rewards, when they finally materialized, were truly extraordinary and transformative. For the inaugural time within recorded human memory, Melissa's community possessed a significant surplus of food, quantities far exceeding their immediate consumption needs for a single season. They innovatively learned to preserve grain within sealed pottery vessels, effectively safeguarding it from the detrimental effects of moisture and destructive pests. Furthermore, they discovered that certain foodstuffs could be expertly dried, judiciously fermented, or otherwise preserved through methods that dramatically extended their utility far beyond their natural growing period. Winter, which had historically been synonymous with pervasive scarcity and gnawing apprehension, was now transformed into merely another season to be navigated with contented stomachs and minds at peace. As news of these remarkable achievements disseminated, Other tribes across the landscape were inspired to embark upon their own agricultural experiments. Each distinct group ingeniously adapted the fundamental principles of cultivation to suit their unique environmental characteristics and specific requirements. Along the expansive coastal territories, for instance, they mastered the art of cultivating vegetables that flourished in the sandy soil and saline air. In the rugged mountainous regions, they ingeniously engineered intricate terrace fields, effectively utilizing steep slopes and harnessing the seasonal rainfall. Adjacent to life-giving rivers and meandering streams, they devised sophisticated irrigation systems that channeled water to previously barren and unproductive land. The societal transformations that accompanied the advent of agriculture proved to be just as profound and far-reaching as the technological advancements. When human populations were no longer compelled to perpetually migrate in pursuit of sustenance, they could dedicate invaluable time and substantial energy to constructing permanent dwellings. Robust houses gradually supplanted ephemeral shelters, evolving into enduring centers of family life and secure repositories for accumulated personal possessions. Villages organically expanded around the most fertile and productive farmland, fostering the growth of communities sufficiently large and complex to support a diverse array of specialized craftspeople. Skilled potters to fashion essential storage vessels, expert toolmakers to forge superior plows and sharp sickles, and meticulous weavers to create intricate clothing from resilient plant fibers. Children born into these nascent farming communities experienced a fundamentally altered relationship with both time and place compared to their nomadic forebears. They were intimately educated in the patient, cyclical rhythms of agricultural existence. The hushed, dormant winter months, when seeds lay quiescent beneath frozen earth. The exhilarating anticipation of spring planting. The anxious vigil throughout the summer, as crops steadily progressed towards maturity. And the joyful, yet utterly exhausting culmination of harvest time. They progressively developed what we might accurately term agricultural wisdom, an intricate, intuitive understanding of intricate weather patterns, diverse soil types, common plant diseases, and the myriad other complex variables that ultimately dictate success or failure in the demanding pursuit of farming. Religious practices, too, evolved in lockstep with the burgeoning agricultural lifestyle. As people endeavored to comprehend, and indeed influence the enigmatic forces that govern the prosperity of their crops, they began to perceive divine manifestations within the inexorable seasonal cycles. This led to the creation of elaborate rituals designed to ensure propitious weather, fertile soil, and abundant harvests. Demeter, the revered goddess of grain and agriculture, ascended to become one of the most paramount deities within the Greek pantheon, symbolizing not merely the generous bounty of the earth, but also the profound, sacred partnership forged between diligent human effort and the inherent power of natural forces. The implements employed by these pioneering farmers, while seemingly rudimentary, proved remarkably effective. Sturdy wooden plows, harnessed to the immense strength of oxen, could break up compacted soil with far greater efficiency than manual tools alone. Precision-crafted bronze sickles dramatically accelerated and improved the thoroughness of the harvesting process. Clay vessels offered secure and impervious storage for precious seeds and harvested grain. Robust stone querns diligently ground grain into fine flour, which could then be expertly baked into bread, a foodstuff that was conveniently portable, highly nutritious, and impressively long-lasting. Each of these ingenious innovations represented an accumulation of generations of tireless experimentation and meticulous refinement, as farmers consistently developed superior methods for interacting with and cultivating the land. However, arguably, the most pivotal tool these early cultivators developed was patience itself. Unlike the immediate gratification often associated with hunting, which could yield swift results for those possessing sufficient skill and fortune, farming inherently demanded an unwavering faith in delayed gratification. Seeds painstakingly sown in the spring might not be ready for harvest until the arrival of autumn. Newly planted fruit trees could require several years before they began to bear fruit. Significant improvements to soil quality might necessitate decades to manifest their full beneficial effect. This profound shift towards long-term thinking profoundly transformed not only the fundamental methods by which people sustain themselves, but also their very conceptualization of their place within the vast, interconnected world. By the epoch when classical Greek civilization attained its apex, the lineal descendants of these initial farmers had engineered an agricultural system capable of sustaining millions of individuals. They had pioneered sophisticated crop rotation techniques that effectively preserved soil fertility, implemented selective breeding programs that dramatically enhanced both plants and animals, and established intricate trade networks that facilitated the distribution of surplus food across the expansive Mediterranean realm. Yet, the foundational bedrock of this entire sophisticated edifice remained the patient observations and meticulous experiments of visionaries like Melissa, individuals who perceived latent potential in wild botanical species, who willingly invested their precious time and energy into outcomes that were inherently uncertain, and who ultimately trusted that the earth would respond to their dedicated care with an outpouring of abundance. Even in our contemporary era, characterized by highly mechanized agriculture and advanced scientific plant breeding, the fundamental relationship between the farmer and the land persists, largely unaltered. There remains an indispensable need for individuals to diligently monitor the weather, assiduously tend the soil, and continually make the myriad small, critical decisions that ultimately determine whether crops will flourish or succumb. The progeny of those pioneering Greek farmers continue their vital work in fields spanning the globe, perpetuating an unbroken lineage of partnership with the earth that commenced when a perceptive woman named Melissa first recognized that scattered seeds possessed the miraculous capacity to yield abundant harvests. What other unsung, quiet innovations profoundly shaped the daily existence of the ancient Greeks, which dedicated craftspeople and skilled artisans meticulously laid the very foundations of civilization through their unwavering commitment and patient devotion to their vocations. In the imposing shadow of Acrocorinth, where the first golden rays of morning light gently caress the workshops lining the ancient city streets, Nicias commences his day much as his father did, and his father's father before him. The pottery wheel spins rhythmically beneath his deft and careful hands, and wet, pliable clay gracefully ascends, taking on forms destined to transport fine wine across the Mediterranean Sea, to hold precious olive oil for the flickering lamps in temples, and to securely store grain through the entirety of another winter. Yet, Nicias, engrossed in his craft, is not contemplating distant trade routes or complex commercial transactions. Instead, he is intently listening to the clay itself, instinctively feeling for that precise moment when it is perfectly poised to fulfill its intended purpose. Corinthian pottery enjoys widespread renown throughout the ancient world, not primarily for its imposing size or grandiosity, but rather for its impeccable proportions, its exquisitely delicate painted embellishments, and the intrinsic way it seems to encapsulate something profoundly essential about Greek life. Each individual piece originates from specific clay deposits meticulously excavated from the hillsides surrounding the city, clay that has been imbued with centuries of Mediterranean rain and sun. The potters possess an intimate knowledge of every deposit, capable of discerning which particular hillside yields clay that, upon firing, develops a warm terracotta hue, and which specific valley provides the remarkably fine, smooth material ideally suited for intricate, detailed painting. The laborious work commences well before dawn, while the morning air is still cool and refreshingly calm. Nicias and his diligent apprentices meticulously prepare the raw clay, kneading it with a rhythmic motion akin to preparing bread dough. This crucial process aims to meticulously remove any trapped air bubbles that could potentially cause catastrophic cracks during the high-temperature firing. This technique, universally known as wedging, demands both considerable patience and substantial physical strength. The clay must be worked relentlessly until it achieves a state of perfect uniformity, becoming exquisitely responsive to the potter's sensitive touch, without being either excessively soft or unduly stiff. A true master potter possesses the innate ability to recognize when the clay is perfectly conditioned merely by the subtle feel of it in his hands, the nuanced way it yields to applied pressure, and the faint, almost imperceptible warmth that subtly develops as it is continuously worked. As he settles at the potter's wheel, Nicias invariably slips into a profound state of meditative focus. His lower limbs diligently operate the foot pedal, ensuring the massive stone platform rotates steadily, while his dexterous hands coax the malleable earth skyward, shaping it into archetypal designs. These include elegant amphorae, specifically crafted for storing and transporting wine, expansive craters, essential for the communal mixing of beverages during spirited symposiums, modest cups intended for the rhythms of daily consumption, and solemn ceremonial vessels dedicated to the sacred observances of religious festivals. Each of these iconic shapes has been meticulously perfected across countless generations, their dimensions continually calibrated and recalibrated until they achieve that quintessential equilibrium of aesthetic grace and practical utility, a hallmark that truly defines authentic Hellenic craftsmanship. The act of throwing clay, when observed from a master craftsman, appears deceptively facile, yet it demands an arduous apprenticeship spanning numerous years to acquire true proficiency. An excessive application of force can tragically cause the vessel's delicate walls to collapse inward, whereas insufficient pressure results in forms that remain unrefined, thick, and clumsy. The true genius lies in deciphering the clay's subtle reactions, comprehending its intrinsic desire for particular movement, and ultimately collaborating with its inherent characteristics rather than contending with its fundamental nature. Indeed, Nicias frequently executes this intricate task with his vision occluded, depending solely on tactile sensation to steer the malleable substance towards its predestined configuration. Upon the foundational form's completion, the profound aesthetic embellishment commences. During the phase when the clay retains a degree of moisture, yet possesses sufficient structural integrity for manipulation, specialized ornamental artists assume control, for they are masters of their distinct discipline, possessing a unique and highly developed expertise. These highly skilled artisans have devoted innumerable decades to mastering the craft of depicting intricate scenes that narrate compelling stories, ancient myths, and revered legends. Their artistic repertoire also encompasses vivid portrayals of quotidian existence, the dynamic energy of athletic competitions, and the solemn grandeur of religious ceremonies. To achieve their detailed visions, they employ delicate instruments fashioned from fine animal bristles, utilizing a specialized substance known as slip. This slip is essentially liquid clay, meticulously refined to achieve a viscosity that permits it to flow with graceful smoothness, yet critically, without uncontrolled running. The methodologies employed in this pictorial art demand a level of exactitude and meticulousness comparable to any other specialized manual skill within the workshop. The initial stage of this intricate process involves the delicate creation of an outline, subtly rendered with a slender brush, establishing the foundational contours of the scene. Subsequently, the primary chromatic elements are meticulously applied and filled. Historically, this often manifested as striking black figures silhouetted against the natural, rich red-orange hue of the fired clay, a style that later evolved to feature vibrant red figures starkly contrasted against a deep black background. The artists are compelled to execute their work with both celerity and exactitude, primarily because any erroneous application is not readily rectified once committed to the clay. Consequently, every single application of the brush must emanate unwavering assurance and unwavering certainty, each contributing to aesthetic compositions destined to be immutably fixed through the intense heat of the kiln, ensuring their permanence for eternity. The kiln firing phase represents perhaps the period of utmost apprehension in the entire intricate process of pottery creation, the culmination of countless weeks of meticulous labor, encompassing the careful preparation of the clay, the expert shaping of vessels, the precise application of painted decorations, and the patient waiting for everything to dry properly, ultimately hinges upon a critical 72-hour period. During these 3 days and nights, the ceramic creations reside within specialized chambers, subjected to intense heat generated by controlled conflagrations, where prescribed thermal conditions must be precisely sustained. An excessive thermal elevation invariably leads to deformation or irreparable fracturing of the artifacts, rendering them useless. Conversely, an insufficient thermal exposure prevents the emergence of the opulent hues and resilient surface texture that render Corinthian pottery exceptionally coveted and highly prized throughout the ancient world. Through years of dedicated practice and acute observation, Nicias has developed an intuitive mastery of interpreting the fiery elements, akin to a seasoned agrarian discerning meteorological patterns. The chromatic intensity of the flames conveys critical data regarding the internal thermal state of the kiln. Similarly, the auditory characteristics of the combusting timber betray the residual moisture content within the kindling, offering vital clues for optimal firing. Furthermore, the olfactory signature of the emanating smoke discloses the purity of the combustion or signals the necessity for corrective modifications to be implemented. His repose during these critical firing days is fragmented into brief, intermittent periods as he conscientiously checks the kilns every few hours, meticulously adding wood, precisely adjusting airflow, and making the countless minute corrections that ultimately constitute the pivotal distinction separating triumphant outcome from calamitous setback. The pottery workshop functions as a sanctuary of intense focus, intermittently punctuated by dynamic surges of effort and creation. When the throwing sessions are underway, every individual's gaze converges upon the rotating wheels, the air filled solely by the gentle hum of the spiraling clay and the delicate spatter of water, employed for maintaining the requisite pliability of both the artisan's hands and the earthen material. As the phase transitions to the delicate art of painting, the ambiance grows even more profoundly silent, with the artisans entirely engrossed in crafting visual narratives destined to captivate and be revered for untold centuries. However, during the climactic firing period, the entire workshop resonates with a palpable current of anxious anticipation, as all present collectively await the verdict on whether their painstakingly crafted endeavors have successfully withstood the severe crucible of fire. When the formidable kilns have at last dissipated their intense heat, and the moment arrives for their careful emptying, a profound confluence of elation and trepidation invariably sweeps through the workshop. Some pieces emerge precisely as hoped, their colors brilliant and vibrant, their forms utterly perfect, and their intricate decorations remarkably crisp and clear. Yet other creations manifest the nuanced divergences inherent to organic firing dynamics, subtle shifts in hue, unique and inimitable patterns in the glaze, or minor imperfections that, paradoxically, imbue each piece with an even greater sense of individuality and preciousness. From time to time, notwithstanding every conceivable preventative measure and the most assiduous efforts, inevitable casualties occur. Pieces that tragically cracked from extreme thermal stress, decorations that failed to fire properly, or forms that warped so severely as to render them entirely beyond use. Yet setbacks constitute an intrinsic component of the pedagogical journey within any artisanal discipline, and the art of ceramics, perhaps more than any other, profoundly instills the virtue of patience as paramount among all others. Nicias has cultivated the profound wisdom to embrace both triumphant outcomes and disappointing failures as invaluable instructors, meticulously scrutinizing every result to discern the precise factors contributing to either success or error. This rigorous self-assessment guides him in understanding how established methodologies could be further honed and perfected, and how the enigmatic transmutation involving earthen material, intense heat, and human ingenuity might be more comprehensively commanded. Indeed, he meticulously preserves fractured artifacts, not as poignant mementos of past shortcomings, but rather as invaluable instructional texts, analyzing their composition and fracture patterns to gain deeper insights into the clay's inherent responses across varied environmental parameters. With their transformation complete, the finished ceramic artifacts depart the confines of the atelier, embarking upon their true existence within the broader global sphere. Amphorae, laden with wine, are prepared for extensive travel on merchant ships, acting as conduits that transport not merely liquid refreshment, but also vital news, intriguing gossip, and profound cultural influences to distant ports across the seas. Meanwhile, solemn ceremonial vessels assume their esteemed positions within temples, cradling sacred offerings dedicated to the gods and actively participating in profound rituals that forge enduring connections between communities and their ancestral spiritual traditions. Concurrently, An array of daily-use pottery permeates homes throughout the vast Mediterranean region, elevating mundane activities such as eating and drinking into more aesthetically pleasing experiences, thereby fostering a deeper connection to the rich artistic traditions that are fundamental in defining Greek civilization. For Nicias and his esteemed fellow potters, the foremost and most discerning clientele resides within their immediate locality. These are the neighbors who regularly frequent the workshop to acquire essential items: glowing oil lamps for illuminating their homes, sturdy water jugs for drawing from their wells, and elegant cups for adorning their tables. These patrons possess an inherent and profound familiarity with ceramic artistry, enabling them to be acutely attuned to the nuanced distinctions delineating exemplary craftsmanship from merely passable fabrication. They grasp the fundamental principle that a meticulously crafted vessel will reliably endure for many decades of faithful service, and that aesthetically pleasing embellishments invariably elevate the experience of routine daily chores into moments of quiet beauty. Moreover, they recognize that patronizing indigenous artisans actively contributes to the preservation of the venerable traditions that bestow a distinctive identity upon their communal existence. With the descent of dusk and the cessation of the final potter's wheel's rotation, Nicias meticulously purifies his implements with an identical degree of attentiveness he dedicates to molding the raw clay. Each individual tool, from the simplest wire to the most specialized rib, possesses its unique purpose, its proper methodology for maintenance, and an indispensable role in the intricate and transformative process that elevates mere earth into exquisite art. Tomorrow, he will recommence his endeavors with fresh clay, encountering new artistic challenges and embracing fresh opportunities to participate in the ancient and enduring dialogue between human creativity and the fundamental properties of natural materials. Beyond the realm of ceramics, numerous other skilled craftspeople similarly discovered profound purpose and fulfillment in this deliberate metamorphosis of elemental resources into artifacts possessing both aesthetic grace and practical function. Indeed, just as the renowned Corinthian potters meticulously shaped humble clay into exquisite vessels that facilitated the dissemination of civilization across the vast seas, so too did the esteemed shipwrights of Athens masterfully shape sturdy wood into the very maritime vessels themselves, enabling far-reaching voyages and cultural exchange. Within the expansive maritime construction facilities, where the rhythmic percussion of hammering reverberates ceaselessly from the earliest blush of dawn until the fading twilight, Alexandros glides his experienced hands across the surface of a carefully seasoned oak timber. His tactile exploration aims to discern the inherent directional patterns of its fibers, thereby intuiting the optimal application for this particular piece of lumber. Certain sections are preordained to become keels, serving as the fundamental longitudinal spine of seagoing vessels destined to transport mercantile goods and valiant combatants across the Homeric wine-dark sea. Other timbers are designated to form the curvilinear ribs, imbuing the vessels with their definitive contours and structural robustness. Still, other choice segments will be meticulously sculpted into the aesthetically pleasing curves of the prows, designed to cleave through oceanic swells with the fluid elegance of marine mammals, symbolizing speed and agility. The foundational stages of maritime construction commence not within the bustling confines of the harbors, but rather deep within the verdant forests, where individual trees are meticulously chosen and expertly felled in accordance with a profound body of wisdom transmitted across countless generations of master shipwrights. Oak is selected for its unparalleled strength, pine for its desirable lightness, and cedar for its remarkable natural resistance to rot and the destructive forces of insects. Each distinct type of wood possesses its optimal application, its ideal seasoning duration, and its own particular set of challenges and inherent advantages when being worked. Alexandros, early in his rigorous apprenticeship, internalized the profound truth that understanding wood is remarkably akin to understanding people. Each unique piece possesses its own inherent character, its distinct way of responding to external stress, and its particular preferences for how it desires to be worked and shaped. Among all the stages of maritime construction, the seasoning of timber is perhaps the most profoundly demanding of one's forbearance. Newly felled timber retains an excessive endogenous moisture content, precluding its immediate utilization in any structural capacity. Consequently, it must be meticulously stacked with ample spaces deliberately left for optimal air circulation, carefully protected from the direct impact of rain, yet not entirely shielded from all ambient weather conditions, and then left to gradually desiccate for a period extending from several months to even multiple years. Unseasoned or green, wood carries the significant risk of warping or cracking irrevocably as it dries, thereby nullifying months of careful preparatory work. However, properly seasoned timber achieves a state of remarkable stability and predictability, rendering it perfectly prepared to assume its vital role in constructions that must steadfastly withstand the relentless and constant stress imposed by the powerful forces of wind and waves. The very design of ships necessitates a delicate equilibrium between paradoxical requirements, presenting a formidable intellectual challenge to even the most astute engineer. These maritime vessels must possess sufficient structural integrity to steadfastly survive ferocious storms, yet simultaneously exhibit enough lightness to move with optimal efficiency through the water. They are required to be capacious enough to transport a substantial and useful volume of cargo, yet concurrently compact enough to be adroitly maneuvered within the confines of tight harbors. Furthermore, they must be meticulously constructed to be sufficiently watertight to repel the ingress of the sea, yet possess enough inherent flexibility to bend harmoniously with the relentless motion of waves without succumbing to catastrophic breakage. Every singular design choice intricately impacts all subsequent considerations, thereby generating multifaceted and intricate conundrums that master shipwrights meticulously solve through a synergistic blend of extensive practical experience, honed intuition, and careful, iterative observation of empirically proven solutions. Alexandros has honed his expertise in the construction of merchant vessels, which serve as the indefatigable workhorses of the extensive Mediterranean trade network, diligently transporting a vast array of commodities ranging from vital grain to fine wine, precious pottery, and essential olive oil between numerous distant ports. While these ships may indeed lack the overt drama and martial spectacle of warships, with their formidable bronze rams and imposing banks of oars, they nonetheless represent something equally, if not more, profoundly important: the patient and enduring commercial relationships that intricately bind the diverse Greek world together. A meticulously constructed merchant ship might faithfully serve for several decades, undertaking hundreds of voyages, carrying thousands of tons of invaluable cargo, and thereby directly supporting the livelihoods of countless traders, intrepid sailors, and every individual whose existence inherently depends on the vibrant flow of seaborne commerce. The construction of a vessel follows time-honored practices, as ancient as the very act of shipbuilding. Initially, the keel, a single formidable timber, is meticulously laid, destined to serve as the ship's fundamental backbone. This pivotal component demands absolute straightness, hewn from the grandest, most impeccable tree obtainable, then meticulously seasoned over a span of years until it achieves an unparalleled state of stability and robustness. The solemn ceremony of keel laying invariably garners the presence of the ship's prospective proprietor, frequently accompanied by votive offerings to Poseidon and fervent supplications for secure voyages. With the keel firmly positioned, the quintessential character of the ship is definitively established. Incrementally, frame by frame, the skeletal structure of the ship materializes. Each rib necessitates meticulous shaping to sculpt the graceful curvatures that will dictate the vessel's hydrodynamics. An excessively sharp contour might cleave through waves with ease but would severely compromise cargo capacity. Conversely, an overly blunt form would offer stability at the cost of speed. The sagacious master shipwright renders these critical decisions, drawing upon the ship's intended function, the specific preferences of its owner, and an extensive reservoir of experience gleaned from observing the performance of diverse hull configurations under varied conditions. The process of planking demands the utmost skill and artistry, as each individual board must be flawlessly integrated with its counterparts, culminating in a hull that embodies both formidable strength and impeccable watertight integrity. These planks are meticulously affixed using robust bronze nails and sturdy wooden dowels, subsequently sealed with a potent concoction of tar and oakum, a resilient, loose fiber derived from aged ropes that possesses the remarkable property of expanding when moistened, thereby creating joints that paradoxically become more impermeable in water. This venerable technology, surprisingly effective, enables meticulously constructed wooden vessels to retain their watertightness for many decades, provided they receive diligent maintenance. Within the hull's confines, scrupulous consideration is afforded to the intricacies of cargo management and the essential comfort of the crew. Commercial vessels necessitate expansive, unencumbered holds, where merchandise can be stored securely and retrieved effortlessly. They require sophisticated freshwater storage systems designed to prevent contamination during protracted voyages. Furthermore, provisions must be made for crew sleeping quarters, cooking facilities engineered to mitigate fire hazards, and ample storage for the provisions and equipment indispensable for weeks at sea. Every minute detail demands meticulous foresight, for errors unearthed post-launch invariably prove to be both financially burdensome and exceedingly arduous to rectify. The momentous launching of a new ship invariably occasions a grand celebration, yet it simultaneously evokes a palpable sense of apprehension among all individuals intimately involved in its laborious construction. The culmination of months of meticulous endeavor, the myriad decisions concerning materials and construction methodologies, the collective prayers and aspirations invested in the ambitious undertaking, all converge upon the singular instant when the ship first embraces the water. Will it achieve the anticipated buoyancy? Will its handling prove satisfactory? will it ultimately validate the considerable investment of both time and precious resources. The vast majority of ships perform precisely as anticipated. Nevertheless, there are invariably minor, unforeseen developments, requiring subtle adjustments and imparting valuable lessons for subsequent projects. Once launched, the vessel embarks upon its true operational life. However, Alexandros's connection to it endures. Wooden ships necessitate incessant upkeep. Hulls require periodic cleaning and meticulous resealing. Rigging systems demand regular replacement. Tempestuous storms inflict damage that must be assiduously repaired. Ships routinely return to the very yards where they were conceived, bearing captivating narratives of distant harbors, tangible evidence of the efficacy of their construction techniques, and valuable recommendations for enhancements in future vessels. These returning ships are akin to adult offspring revisiting their progenitors, bringing news of the expansive world while remaining profoundly connected to their origins. The shipyard itself constitutes a vibrant microcosm within the broader community. Shipwrights labor in close concert with skilled sailmakers, proficient rope manufacturers, expert bronze smiths who forge nails and fittings, and talented carvers who meticulously sculpt the ornate figures adorning ships' prows. Each specialized craft mutually supports the others, fostering an intricate web of specialized proficiencies that underpins the entire maritime economy. Young men mature within this dynamic environment, not only acquiring mastery of their own specific trades, but also cultivating a comprehensive familiarity with every facet of ship construction and ongoing maintenance. The profound economic significance of shipping bestows considerable prestige upon shipwrights within Athenian society. Their indispensable skills are fundamental to the city's prosperity. Their craftsmanship is conspicuously evident in every harbor, their expertise rigorously tested each time their vessels contend with the formidable challenges of wind and wave. Yet, like all genuine artisans, their deepest gratification stems not from external accolades, but from the intrinsic satisfaction derived from the work itself, from the tactile pleasure of perfectly fitted joints, the visual delight of graceful curves taking shape beneath their practiced hands, and the profound knowledge that their creations will safely transport individuals and precious commodities across treacherous waters. As twilight descends and the day's labors draw to a close, Alexandros traverses the shipyard, diligently inspecting projects at various stages of completion. Here, a keel has just been laid for a ship whose completion remains months away. There, a vessel approaches its final stages, awaiting only its ultimate protective coating of tar and the meticulous installation of its rigging. Each ship embodies hundreds of critical decisions, thousands of precise cuts and fittings, and countless hours of patient, dedicated work. Yet they also symbolize something far more profound: intricate connections between disparate geographical locations, invaluable opportunities for trade and cultural exchange, and the inherent human impetus to explore and embark on adventures that has perpetually drawn humanity to the boundless sea. Other artisans, with their unwavering patience and specialized talents, contributed significantly to the foundational infrastructure that sustained Greek civilization. High upon the majestic slopes of Mount Parnassus, where formidable eagles soar and the atmosphere thins, the distinct sound of chisel upon stone has resonated for centuries. However, these are not the dramatic echoes of sculptors creating immortal masterpieces or architects erecting grand temples. Instead, These are the steady, rhythmic taps of stone cutters diligently preparing the robust foundation blocks, the sturdy wall stones, and the innumerable pieces of precisely cut masonry that collectively underpin the architectural marvels for which ancient Greece is justly celebrated. Demetrios meticulously wipes the perspiration from his brow and scrutinizes the stone block he has been assiduously shaping since dawn, carefully verifying its dimensions against the wooden template suspended from his belt. The renowned oracle at Delphi attracts pilgrims from every corner of the known world, yet remarkably few visitors contemplate the very stones beneath their feet as they ascend the sacred pathway toward Apollo's revered temple. Each individual block was painstakingly hewn by hand, meticulously contoured to integrate flawlessly with its adjacent counterparts, and finished to exacting tolerances measured in mere fractions of inches. The demanding work undeniably requires considerable physical strength, but more significantly, it necessitates an abundance of patience, unwavering precision, and an intimate, almost intuitive understanding of the stone itself, its inherent fracture patterns, its susceptibility to weathering, and the nuanced ways in which different types respond to various tools and techniques. Demetrios acquired his profound craftsmanship from his esteemed uncle, who, in turn, learned from his own grandfather, establishing an unbroken lineage of knowledge extending back to the earliest Greeks who first discovered that local limestone could be quarried and expertly shaped into durable building blocks. The fundamental techniques have remained remarkably consistent across generations. The essential tools remain bronze chisels and robust iron hammers, wooden wedges, and sturdy rope hoists. However, the comprehensive understanding of stone, the subtle yet critical judgments regarding its grain and inherent hardness, and the detection of invisible flaws that can either ensure or compromise a block's integrity. This invaluable knowledge deepens and refines with each successive year of dedicated experience. The intricate quarrying process commences with a thorough interpretation of the stone formation, comprehending how the rock was originally deposited in ancient seas, identifying natural fracture lines, and discerning which specific areas will yield the most superior building material. Demetrios possesses the remarkable ability to navigate a quarry and accurately pinpoint locations where the stone will be ideally suited for intricate carving, areas where it is appropriate only for rougher work, and places where concealed imperfections render it unsuitable for construction. This invaluable insight is a direct consequence of handling countless blocks, observing their behavior under stress, and learning to recognize the subtle indicators that predict either success or failure. Extracting formidable blocks from the living rock demands techniques that appear almost mystical to uninitiated observers. Holes are meticulously drilled in precise patterns along the predetermined break lines. Subsequently, wooden wedges are carefully inserted and thoroughly saturated with water. As the wood slowly expands, it generates immense pressure that effectively splits the stone along predictable trajectories. This methodical process is slow but unfailingly reliable, yielding clean breaks with minimal waste. Any attempt to rush the work or to extract blocks too precipitously invariably results in undesirable fractures that ruin valuable material. Once successfully extracted, each block must be meticulously shaped to its final, precise dimensions, using traditional hand tools that have undergone remarkably little alteration since the Bronze Age. The initial rough shaping is accomplished with heavy hammers and broad chisels, systematically removing larger pieces and establishing the fundamental form. Following this, the careful, more refined work begins with smaller tools, gradually perfecting surfaces, meticulously verifying dimensions, and rigorously testing the fit with adjacent blocks. The ultimate finishing stage can consume days of patient labor, involving the removal of all tool marks, the creation of impeccably smooth surfaces, and the achievement of the precision that permits blocks to interlock seamlessly without the need for mortar. Diverse construction projects necessitate distinct approaches to stonework. Foundation blocks, above all else, demand unparalleled strength. They must be capable of bearing immense loads without succumbing to cracking or settling. These crucial pieces are often deliberately left rough on surfaces that will not be visible, with all attention concentrated on the load-bearing interfaces that must be perfectly flat and absolutely true. Wall blocks require meticulous attention to their outer faces, which will be prominently displayed in the completed edifice, although their inner surfaces can be finished with slightly less precision. Column drums, however, demand the most exacting and precise work of all, given that even the slightest irregularity will be significantly amplified as the column ascends skyward. Magnified as the column rises, necessitating an uncompromising commitment to precision from the very foundation. Even the most minute deviation or imperfection, which might appear negligible at ground level, becomes dramatically amplified and visually prominent as architectural elements, such as stately columns, ascend towards the sky. This inherent challenge underscores the critical importance of meticulous accuracy throughout the entire construction process, ensuring structural integrity and aesthetic harmony are maintained in the towering edifice. The arduous task of transporting finished stone blocks from the quarry to the bustling construction site presented a formidable array of logistical challenges. Certain monolithic blocks, weighing several tons, had to be painstakingly maneuvered across rugged, uneven mountain pathways. The techniques employed for this perilous journey relied less on sheer brute force and more on an exquisite blend of patience, ingenious problem-solving, and a deep understanding of leverage. Intricate systems involving robust wooden rollers, meticulously arranged rope pulleys, and the synchronized, careful coordination between dedicated teams of laborers enabled these colossal stones to be shifted safely over distances that, at first glance, seemed utterly insurmountable. This work was inherently perilous. A single misstep or a sudden shift could send a massive block careening, crushing anyone caught in its destructive path. Yet, highly experienced crews, through years of practice, cultivated a precise rhythm and an intuitive communication system that significantly mitigated these ever-present dangers. Upon arrival at the active construction site, the skilled stonecutters engaged in close collaboration with the master builders, performing final, critical adjustments to guarantee an absolutely perfect fit for each block. Despite the preceding stages of painstaking measurement and the creation of precise templates, minor modifications were frequently indispensable. A particular block might require subtle trimming to precisely align with unforeseen variations in the blocks already laid beneath it, or its surfaces might need additional smoothing to ensure optimal contact and stability. This intricate on-site fitting demanded not only the full repertoire of skills honed in the quarry, but also the added complexity of navigating a dynamic environment, working harmoniously alongside other specialized tradespeople. Carpenters were often simultaneously installing the overarching roof structures. Sculptors meticulously carved decorative elements into position, and painters meticulously prepared surfaces, all contributing to the bustling symphony of creation. The essential tools wielded by the stonecutter, though deceptively simple in their design, were remarkably effective, each ingeniously crafted for specific facets of the demanding work. Heavy sledgehammers provided the force for initial, rough breaking of stone. Medium-sized hammers were employed for general shaping and refinement. For the most intricate and detailed tasks, smaller, more delicate hammers were brought into play. Chisels, available in a diverse array of widths and profiles, facilitated various cutting operations. Wooden wedges were strategically inserted for the controlled splitting of larger pieces, while both bronze and iron tools, chosen for their differing hardness and resilience, served distinct cutting requirements. An assortment of precise measuring devices, including rulers for linear dimensions, squares for right angles, plumb lines for vertical accuracy, and levels for horizontal alignment, were indispensable for ensuring exactitude. Crucially, every single tool demanded rigorous maintenance. It had to be kept impeccably sharp and in excellent repair, as a dull or damaged instrument rendered truly precise work utterly impossible. The physical demands inherent in the craft of stone cutting were nothing short of monumental. This arduous occupation necessitated immense physical strength, unwavering stamina, and the profound ability to maintain acute concentration despite the debilitating effects of fatigue, the oppressive heat of summer, the biting cold of winter, and the incessant, deafening clangor of hammers striking stone. Demetrios, a seasoned practitioner, bore the indelible marks of his profession. His hands were permanently disfigured by countless small cuts and chips. His back perpetually stooped from decades of bending over heavy blocks, and his hearing irrevocably diminished by years of relentless tool noise. Yet, he also possessed an invaluable, immeasurable quality, an innate, intuitive understanding of stone, a profound capacity to envision, within the rough, unhewn quarry blocks, the magnificent, finished architectural forms they were destined to become. Perhaps the single most extraordinary characteristic of ancient stonework lies in its astonishing durability. Grand structures meticulously fashioned by master craftsmen such as Demetrios have triumphantly endured for millennia, outliving the very civilizations that brought them into being. They stand as silent, steadfast witnesses while empires rise and fall around them, their stone walls unyielding through the relentless march of time. This profound longevity is by no means a fortuitous accident. Rather, it is the direct consequence of an unwavering, meticulous attention to every conceivable detail throughout the entire intricate construction process. From the initial, discerning selection of raw materials to the exquisite precision of each cut, and extending to the sophisticated techniques employed for interlocking individual blocks. The dedicated stonecutters of Delphi invested their formidable skills not solely in the creation of magnificent temples and grand public buildings. They also meticulously crafted the essential, practical infrastructure that ensured the sanctuary's seamless functionality. This vital network encompassed sturdy retaining walls, engineered to staunchly hold back the shifting mountainside soil, ingenious drainage systems, designed to channel torrential rainwater safely away from sacred edifices, carefully laid steps and pathways, enabling pilgrims to navigate the steep, challenging terrain with secure footing. robust storage buildings, safeguarding precious offerings and vital supplies, and comfortable housing for the resident priests and diligent workers. Every aspect of this extensive construction, even those elements largely unnoticed by casual observers, demanded the identical level of meticulous attention to materials and exacting techniques as the sanctuary's universally acclaimed, famous temples. The inherent seasonal rhythms governing ancient construction work meant that stonecutters frequently enjoyed several months each winter to engage in alternative pursuits. Some artisans embraced a nomadic lifestyle, traveling to diverse construction sites across the Mediterranean basin, following the building season as it shifted geographically. Others shrewdly utilized this period for intensive quarrying operations, systematically stockpiling essential raw materials in preparation for the subsequent year's ambitious projects. Still others devoted their time to the crucial task of training eager apprentices, diligently imparting the invaluable knowledge and refined skills that were absolutely essential for the perpetuation and flourishing of their ancient craft. These quieter, less frenetic months were considered just as vital as the bustling construction season itself, providing invaluable opportunities for thorough tool maintenance, meticulous project planning, and the kind of reflective contemplation that often catalyzed significant improvements in established techniques. The profound religious significance intrinsic to Delphi imbued the stonecutters' demanding labor with an additional, deeper dimension of meaning. These artisans possessed an acute understanding that their meticulous craft contributed to something far more expansive and enduring than mere structural construction. They were, in essence, creating sacred spaces where mortal humans could forge a tangible connection with the divine, where the revered oracle's enigmatic prophecies would resonate and echo through countless generations, and where countless pilgrims would discover profound spiritual guidance and renewal. This overarching sacred purpose infused even the most mundane and routine tasks with an extraordinary sense of meaning, transforming the painstaking work of cutting and fitting stone into what felt like a profound form of prayer, a tangible physical offering presented to the benevolent gods who vigilantly watched over this supremely holy place. As Demetrios, weary but content, concluded his day's demanding work and began the familiar ritual of cleaning and storing his precious tools, his gaze instinctively lifted towards the majestic temple slowly but surely taking shape above him. He knew, with an artisan's deep certainty, that each formidable block meticulously integrated into those towering walls had passed through hands just like his own, had been expertly shaped by tools mirroring his own, and had been precisely fitted into its designated place through the patient, unwavering application of skills painstakingly acquired and refined over countless generations. Tomorrow, with the rising sun, he would embark upon the shaping of yet another block, and then another, each a singular contribution to a monumental construction project destined to gracefully outlast his own mortal existence by many centuries. He often pondered what other patient craftspeople across the ancient world also discovered such profound meaning and lasting purpose in their diligent work, knowing full well that their creations would long outlive their dedicated creators. In the profound pre-dawn stillness of ancient Athens, while the vast majority of the city's inhabitants remained deeply ensconced in slumber, Thalia meticulously kindled the fire within the cavernous great stone oven of her bustling bakery. The fundamental, life-sustaining work of feeding an entire community commenced many hours before anyone even began to contemplate breakfast. unfolding in the tranquil quietude when skilled bakers magically transformed simple, humble ingredients, flour, water, salt, and the enigmatic, vital essence of wild yeast, into the very bread that literally sustained life itself. Her practiced hands, imbued with the unwavering confidence forged over 30 years of dedicated experience, moved with purposeful grace, carefully building the roaring fire that would thoroughly heat the oven's immensely thick walls, diligently preparing for yet another day of the ancient alchemy that miraculously transmuted raw grain into indispensable sustenance. The bakery itself was strategically situated at the bustling intersection of two highly trafficked streets, an ideal location designed to efficiently serve the daily culinary requirements of the surrounding neighborhood. Throughout the daylight hours, the establishment would inevitably be filled with a vibrant tapestry of customers, animated conversations, and the cheerful, chaotic symphony of commerce. However, in these hushed, nascent hours of the morning, the space belonged exclusively to Thalia and the serene, rhythmic cadence of her time-honored craft. She meticulously inspected the numerous loaves that had been undergoing their slow, vital rise throughout the night, assessing their readiness with a gentle, knowing touch that conveyed every piece of crucial information regarding optimal timing, precise temperature, and the mysterious, unseen life force that made the very existence of bread possible. The intricate art of bread making commenced with a profound comprehension of grain itself. The diverse varieties of wheat, barley, and other essential cereals that industrious farmers, much like those pioneering Greek agriculturalists, had painstakingly learned to cultivate thousands of years prior. Distinct grain types naturally yielded differing flavors and unique textural qualities, and adept bakers possessed the sophisticated knowledge of how to expertly combine them to achieve highly specific culinary effects. Fine wheat flour, for instance, produced the exquisitely light, airy loaves that were traditionally favored for celebratory special occasions. Barley, conversely, yielded a denser, significantly more nutritious bread, renowned for its capacity to thoroughly satisfy hunger and provide sustained, lasting energy. Breads crafted from mixed grains offered a complex palette of flavors and the practical, economic advantage of utilizing whatever grain varieties were most readily available at advantageous prices. The laborious process of grinding raw grain into finely milled flour represented a fundamental task that inextricably linked every single loaf of bread to the expansive agricultural cycle, a cycle that invariably originated in distant, sun-drenched fields. Thalia, ever diligent, meticulously maintained strong, reliable relationships with several reputable local mills, understanding implicitly that the intrinsic quality of the flour she sourced directly dictated the ultimate quality of her finished bread. She possessed an uncanny ability to discern, through mere touch and scent, whether a batch of flour was genuinely fresh, impeccably ground, and completely free from any adulteration, a deceitful practice unscrupulous dealers sometimes employed to illicitly inflate their profits. Truly superior flour, she knew, felt exquisitely smooth and faintly warm to the touch, exuded a sweet and impeccably clean aroma, and most importantly, produced dough that behaved predictably during handling and consistently baked into bread, boasting both excellent flavor and an exemplary texture. Water, the second undeniably essential ingredient, might superficially appear to be a straightforward component, yet seasoned bakers were keenly aware that different water sources yielded remarkably distinct results. The specific mineral content, the ambient temperature, and the overall purity of the water all critically influenced how the dough behaved during kneading, how robustly the yeast cultures developed, and ultimately, the nuanced flavor profile of the finished bread. Thalia, with her profound experience, consistently drew her water from a particular highly regarded source, widely acclaimed for its unwavering, consistent quality. She had, over time, expertly learned to precisely adjust her baking techniques to account for the subtle, seasonal variations in both water temperature and mineral composition. During the colder winter months, for instance, the frigid water necessitated a considerably longer mixing period to properly develop the crucial gluten structure within the dough. Conversely, in the sweltering summer, she would occasionally introduce ice into the mixture to judiciously prevent the dough from becoming excessively warm during the intensive mixing process. Salt, far from being a mere flavoring agent, served a multifaceted array of critical purposes within the intricate process of bread making. Beyond its fundamental role in enhancing taste, it significantly fortified the gluten structure, thereby enabling the dough to effectively retain its desired shape throughout the crucial stages of rising and baking. Moreover, salt played a vital regulatory role in governing yeast activity, expertly preventing the bread from rising too rapidly and subsequently developing an undesirable, compromised texture. It also functioned as an entirely natural preservative, effectively extending the bread's useful shelf life. The precise quantity of salt required meticulous control. An insufficient amount would render the bread bland and structurally weak, while an excessive quantity would regrettably inhibit the essential yeast activity and impart an unpleasantly salty flavor to the final product. However, arguably, the most enigmatic and profoundly vital ingredient was yeast itself, the microscopic, living organism that miraculously transformed dense, unyielding dough into light, exquisitely airy bread. In Thalia's era, long before the widespread availability of commercial yeast products, bakers diligently maintained treasured mother starters. These were carefully cultivated mixtures of flour and water that naturally captured wild yeasts from the ambient air, subsequently providing the essential leavening power for each day's fresh bread. Such invaluable starters demanded unwavering daily attention, including regular, precise feeding with fresh flour and water, alongside scrupulous temperature control to ensure the yeast remained robustly healthy and vigorously active. A truly exceptional starter could endure for many years, even decades, often meticulously passed down through generations like an irreplaceable family heirloom, a living testament to the enduring legacy of their craft. It was in the intricate process of mixing and kneading the dough that the baker's consummate skill became most evident. An insufficient duration of blending would prevent the constituent ingredients from adequately integrating, invariably leading to bread with an inferior consistency and an inconsistent internal structure. Conversely, an excessive period of manipulation could compromise the intricate network of gluten, resulting in compact, weighty bread. Thalia, through years of dedicated practice, had cultivated the ability to discern the optimal state of the dough through tactile assessment alone. A properly developed dough exhibited a supple, resilient characteristic, reacting reliably to both stretching and shaping maneuvers. Furthermore, the vigorous kneading process served to infuse atmospheric elements into the dough, thereby establishing the foundational framework that the active yeast would subsequently expand during the crucial fermentation stage. The phase of rising, commonly known as fermentation, represented perhaps the most demanding aspect of bread making, rigorously testing the baker's forbearance. The artisan was compelled to meticulously establish the optimal atmospheric conditions, sufficiently warm to encourage robust microbial proliferation, yet not so heated that the fermentative process would accelerate unduly. Adequately humid to forestall the formation of a desiccated exterior crust, but not to such an extent that the dough would transform into a tacky and recalcitrant mass. Thalia, through extensive practical engagement, had cultivated an innate understanding for these delicate environmental parameters, consistently modifying proofing durations and thermal settings in response to prevailing meteorological patterns, annual climatic shifts, and the distinctive attributes of each individual batch of dough. The meticulous shaping of loaves demanded a harmonious blend of both dexterity in execution and profound aesthetic discernment. Various forms were not merely arbitrary, but fulfilled distinct functional requirements. Elongated loaves, for instance, offered an expansive surface of crispiness, particularly coveted by those patrons who relished the resilient masticatory sensation of a thoroughly baked crust. Conversely, spherical loaves achieved a more uniform thermal distribution during cooking and consequently retained their optimal state of freshness for an extended period. Diminutive individual rolls proved especially advantageous for customers desiring single portions. Each distinct geometric configuration necessitated its own specific manipulation methodologies, tailored proofing durations, and precise oven calibration modifications. Thalia derived profound satisfaction from crafting loaves that were not merely wholesome and delectable, but also inherently aesthetically pleasing, possessing a deep understanding that individuals perceived their sustenance with their sight as much as they consumed it with their mouths. The concluding proofing stage, occurring after the loaves had been meticulously shaped, was utterly pivotal in attaining the desired consistency and internal structure of the final baked product. Insufficiently proofed bread would inevitably result in compact and substantial loaves, exhibiting a regrettable lack of lightness. Conversely, excessively fermented dough risked undergoing structural failure during thermal processing, leading to an inconsistent internal structure and suboptimal loft. Thalia employed a repertoire of assessment techniques to ascertain preparedness, including delicately prodding the mass to observe the velocity of its rebound, scrutinizing the exterior for subtle indications of adequate microbial activity, and regulating the proofing duration informed by accumulated wisdom gleaned from similar conditions. This nuanced and discerning assessment was solely the fruit of extensive practical engagement over many years, coupled with meticulous observation of outcomes. The actual process of baking itself necessitated an intimate comprehension of the dynamics governing the colossal masonry furnace that presided over the bakery. These venerable ovens were typically ignited by kindling conflagrations directly within their baking chamber, subsequent to which the glowing embers and cinders would be meticulously extracted. Once the substantial stone walls had imbibed a sufficient thermal charge to process successive consignments of bread, the lingering thermal energy would then gently and uniformly bake the loaves. This method was instrumental in imparting the robust, resilient exteriors and succulent, yielding crumb that so definitively characterized authentic artisanal hearthbreads. The intricate art of orchestrating the oven's thermal environment and dexterously introducing the dough required a complex array of proficiencies that demanded an extended period of dedicated acquisition and persistent refinement. The entire succession of thermal processes within the oven adhered to a meticulous strategy designed to optimize the utilization of the furnace's formidable thermal output. Initially, the period of peak thermal intensity was purposefully dedicated to the baking of robust, hearty loaves, which specifically required intense calorific energy to facilitate optimal crust formation and structural integrity. As the internal thermal gradient gradually diminished, finer, more sensitive confections were introduced, such as sweetbreads and various pastries, items that would be highly susceptible to scorching during the nascent elevated temperatures. Finally, the lingering genial heat that permeated the masonry was ingeniously repurposed for various operations, including the desiccating of aromatic botanicals, the reheating of pre-cooked provisions, or other ancillary activities that profoundly profited from a mild thermal application. In a truly well-managed bakery, it was an unwritten law that no resource, especially heat, was ever squandered. The societal function of the neighborhood bakery transcended the mere provision of staple food. It flourished as a central communal nexus. Within its welcoming confines, residents congregated to disseminate current affairs, deliberate upon regional occurrences, and thereby actively foster the interpersonal bonds that powerfully interwove the very fabric of their society. Patrons frequently cultivated a deep rapport with their bakers, learning to discern the opportune moments for their presence, specifically when their preferred baked goods emerged, fragrant and warm, from the oven. They relied implicitly on the artisan's discernment regarding both the superiority and recent preparation of the products, depending utterly upon the establishment as an unfailing purveyor of their everyday nourishment. Thalia possessed an intimate understanding of her clientele's diverse inclinations and meticulously tailored her production in response to these specific demands. She was acutely aware that Marcos, the skilled ceramicist, favored a robust, compact barley loaf, specifically crafted to fortify him during his arduous periods spent at the wheel. Conversely, Helena, the deft textile artisan, appreciated ethereal wheat rolls designed to preclude somnolence during her intricate work. Younger patrons invariably gravitated towards saccharine confections enriched with honey and nuts, while senior clientele consistently desired tender, yielding breads that were effortless to masticate. This bespoke insight into individual needs profoundly empowered her to minister to her community with a degree of efficacy utterly unattainable by any expansive industrial enterprise. The pivotal economic significance of bread within ancient society conferred upon artisans like Thalia roles of substantial accountability and public trust. This staple was unequivocally not a discretionary indulgence, but an indispensable necessity, forming the very cornerstone of dietary intake for the majority of the populace, particularly during periods of agricultural scarcity or market volatility. Bakers were thus compelled to meticulously reconcile the imperative of client satisfaction with the exigencies of their own commercial viability. Demonstrating a profound understanding of civic responsibility, they frequently offered deferred payment arrangements to reliable patrons amidst periods of hardship, recognizing that cultivating enduring communal bonds unequivocally superseded the pursuit of immediate pecuniary gains. The annual fluctuations in agricultural yield and the inherent characteristics of the grain itself rendered the artisan's vocation both stimulating and demanding. Freshly gathered cereals, for instance, introduced novel palates and often presented enhanced rheological properties, yet simultaneously necessitated modifications in manipulation methodologies. Conversely, matured cereals could demand altered fluid absorption ratios or extended blending durations to achieve optimal results. Furthermore, prevailing atmospheric conditions impacted not solely the foundational ingredients, but equally the ambient conditions of the bakehouse. Days of elevated atmospheric moisture mandated recalibrations in proofing durations, while frigid climatic conditions could compel significant alterations in furnace operation protocols. A truly adept artisan cultivated the wisdom to harmonize with these natural divergences, rather than fruitlessly contending against their inherent forces. Beyond the practicalities of daily consumption, sacred rites and societal customs similarly shaped the baker's repertoire. Specific celebratory observances, such as various feast days, necessitated unique baked goods, often featuring prescribed forms and customary components. Nuptial ceremonies, for instance, called for intricately adorned loaves, rich with symbolism, that emblematized auspiciousness and fecundity for the newlyweds. Conversely, morning assemblages demanded unadorned, nourishing provisions, simple and substantial breads befitting grave circumstances. Thalia diligently preserved formulae and methodologies for all these special needs, understanding profoundly that her role encompassed safeguarding ancestral practices as well as furnishing quotidian nourishment. As the day advanced and habitual patrons commenced their arrival, drawn by the irresistible aroma, Thalia experienced the profound contentment inherent in a task meticulously accomplished. The freshly baked breads, now resting upon wooden trellises, embodied countless periods of meticulous dedication, decades of refined aptitude, and a rich lineage of expertise transmitted through the venerable fraternity of bakers. Each individual creation would not merely sustain a household, but would also facilitate the day's endeavors, furnishing the vitality essential for societal operation. Tomorrow, she would recommence with fresh raw material, confronting novel impediments, and embracing further occasions to hone the venerable artistry that so miraculously transmuted rudimentary components into the very essence of subsistence. Indeed, what other essential services demanded such patient daily attention to maintain the intricate rhythms of ancient Greek life? Mirroring the vital role played by artisans such as Thalia in provisioning their communities with quotidian nourishment, the heralds and couriers of ancient Greece sustained the intricate linkages spanning disparate localities through their unwavering, diligent commitment. Philippus, a seasoned professional, carefully repositioned the rawhide satchel draped over his clavicle and departed from the Athenian metropolis precisely as the nascent light illuminated the crest of Mount Pentelicus. He was embarking upon a fresh expedition destined to convey crucial tidings, official missives, and authoritative decrees across the rugged, elevated terrain that so often demarcated autonomous polis from one another. His intended terminus for this particular day's endeavor was the venerable city of Corinth, a journey demanding a rigorous 2-day transit over thoroughfares ranging from meticulously laid stone paving to rudimentary earthen tracks, and at times, merely faint vestiges through untamed wilderness. The demanding existence of a vocational courier necessitated a unique confluence of robust physical stamina, comprehensive topographical familiarity, and adept interpersonal capabilities, qualities rarely found in the general populace. Philippus, for instance, had to be sufficiently robust to traverse distances of 20 to 30 miles daily by pedestrian means, transporting not solely missives, but also the essential provisions requisite for expeditions spanning multiple sunrises. Furthermore, he had to be intimately acquainted with the arteries of travel, the dependable way stations, and the periodically occurring perils that might impede his progress. Crucially, he had to be a man of unimpeachable integrity, such that municipal authorities, commercial traders, and private individuals would repose confidence in him with privileged dispatches, precious parchments, and time-sensitive intelligence that often impacted the economic well-being and occasionally the very existence of individuals. The rigorous tutelage of a courier commenced during early youth, with male adolescents exhibiting a natural aptitude for swift locomotion, being progressively accustomed to extended trajectories and more arduous topographies. The nascent Philippus, for instance, initiated his career by ferrying communiques among the various daimos of Athens, a period during which he meticulously assimilated the intricate urban labyrinth's thoroughfares. Simultaneously, he diligently cultivated the lower limb musculature indispensable for incessant perambulation and honed the consistent cadence that enabled an envoy to traverse the greatest possible expanse without succumbing to debilitating fatigue. As he demonstrated unwavering dependability on abbreviated circuits, he was incrementally entrusted with more protracted commissions, eventually progressing towards the vital arterial pathways connecting polis, which together constituted the foundational infrastructure of Hellenic informational conduits. The arterial thoroughfares themselves narrated the saga of successive eras of incremental enhancement and geographical proliferation. Certain pathways, for instance, adhered to primeval trails deeply etched by innumerable epochs of peripatetic individuals, pastoralists guiding their ovine charges to ephemeral grazing lands, merchants conveying commodities betwixt commercial emporia, devotees journeying to hallowed sanctuaries, and military contingents traversing territorial domains. Alternative conduits, however, represented more contemporary edifices, meticulously surfaced with hewn lithic segments and designed to afford the most expeditious courses between significant termini. Yet, even the most impeccably constructed roadways necessitated perpetual upkeep, and couriers, through their extensive travels, acquired the sagacity to circumnavigate obstacles such as torrential erosion, geological displacements, and periodic inundations that could render customary itineraries momentarily impassable. The challenging terrain of ancient Greece frequently rendered various travel pathways exceedingly difficult, or at times entirely impassable, creating significant impediments to routine transit and effective communication. The very topography of ancient Greece presented formidable obstacles to efficient, long-distance communication, creating a complex web of challenges for any traveler. Towering mountain ranges frequently bifurcated valleys that, while geographically proximate as the crow flies, demanded many arduous hours of strenuous climbing for passage on foot. While coastal pathways offered a respite from some of the incessant elevation changes, they introduced a distinct array of perils. Violent maritime storms frequently rendered shoreline trails treacherous. The seasonal inundation of various rivers necessitated perilous fording, and extensive stretches of the coastline plunged abruptly into the Aegean, leaving no viable space for any overland passage whatsoever. Through years of diligent travel and meticulous observation, Philippus had amassed an intricate mental cartography of the entire Hellenic region. His invaluable expertise extended to identifying which streams offered dependable sources of potable water, discerning which settlements extended a warm reception to wayfarers versus those that harbored wariness towards outsiders, and understanding precisely which mountain passes remained accessible deepest into the winter and became navigable earliest in the spring. This highly specialized intelligence was utterly unattainable from scholarly texts or conventional charts. It was cultivated solely through first-hand engagement, a painstaking accretion of minute particulars that seasoned voyagers leveraged to ensure their expeditions were both secure and expeditious. The communiques entrusted to his care constituted the very vital essence of ancient Greek civilization. These included official dispatches exchanged between city-states, meticulously detailing diplomatic negotiations, strategic military maneuvers, burgeoning trade agreements, and myriad other critical affairs necessitating seamless coordination among independent polities. Furthermore, there was extensive commercial correspondence between astute merchants, facilitating the arrangement of cargo shipments, the negotiation of commodity prices, and the dissemination of crucial intelligence regarding market conditions in distant urban centers. Finally, a significant portion comprised private letters between kin, companions, and professional associates, serving to foster and sustain invaluable personal relationships across the geographical expanses that often fragmented the Hellenic communities. The safeguarding of these critical communiques remained a perpetual preoccupation, given that intelligence possessed inherent value, prompting certain individuals to exert considerable effort to appropriate communications that could confer commercial or political leverage. Philippus, through his extensive experience, had mastered various techniques for protecting the integrity of his messages. Sophisticated coding systems meticulously designed to obscure sensitive data, the practice of dispatching multiple copies via disparate routes to guarantee the secure arrival of at least one, and the use of specific recognition signals enabling him to authenticate the identities of his designated recipients. The most exquisitely sensitive dispatches were, remarkably, committed entirely to memory rather than being inscribed, a method that, however, demanded couriers possessing extraordinary mnemonic capabilities and unwavering trustworthiness. Environmental conditions invariably presented persistent adversities that demanded unceasing flexibility and astute discernment from messengers. Springtime ushered in pervasive mud, rendering many thoroughfares almost unnavigable, whereas the intense summer heat posed significant dangers to anyone undertaking extensive journeys during the day's most scorching hours. Autumnal tempests were prone to sudden deluges, causing rivers to overflow their banks and bridges to be swept away with scant forewarning. Winter snowfall effectively sealed off mountain passes and transformed high-altitude pathways into perilous or entirely insurmountable routes. Consequently, seasoned couriers cultivated the skill of interpreting meteorological indicators, meticulously adjusting their itineraries, occasionally postponing travel for days until conditions ameliorated rather than venturing into hazardous circumstances. The inherent rigors of incessant travel mandated meticulous prudence regarding sustenance, fluid intake, and recuperation. Philippus consistently transported provisions of desiccated foodstuffs designed to resist spoilage over multi-day expeditions. Dense, hard bread, sun-dried fruits, various nuts, and cheeses specifically chosen for their excellent aging properties rather than their susceptibility to decay. He possessed an intimate knowledge of the precise whereabouts of every dependable water source along his customary itineraries, and prudently carried water containers to navigate those arid stretches where natural springs or streams were sparse. Repose frequently involved bivouacking beneath the nocturnal sky, enveloped in a simple cloak, relying on a combination of fortune and unwavering vigilance for safeguarding against both predatory beasts and human assailants. Yet this demanding profession simultaneously bestowed privileges that few other vocations could rival. Professional couriers witnessed a far greater expanse of the world than the majority of their ancient contemporaries, immersing themselves in the rich heterogeneity of terrains, customs, and lifestyles prevalent throughout the Hellenic domain. They cultivated a more expansive viewpoint on unfolding events, comprehending how localized occurrences integrated into broader historical patterns, and discerning interconnections between geographically separated communities that often remained indiscernible to those who rarely ventured from their native locales. This profound wellspring of knowledge rendered them invaluable purveyors of intelligence and counsel, cementing their status as esteemed members within the communities they diligently served. The intricate social dimensions of a courier's duties proved equally as crucial as the rigorous physical demands inherent in their profession. Couriers effectively functioned as unofficial conduits of information, conveying not merely official communiques, but also a steady stream of hearsay, speculation, and general intelligence that facilitated communities' ongoing connection with the broader global landscape. They delivered tidings of upcoming festivals and jubilant celebrations, disseminated reports concerning the fortunes of harvests, whether bountiful or meager, and shared insights into political shifts that held potential implications for commerce or transit. This pervasive informal communication network was instrumental in cultivating the profound sense of a shared Hellenic culture, a vital unifying force despite the inherent political balkanization of the Greek world. Cultivating robust relationships with innkeepers, stable proprietors, and other purveyors of traveler services proved absolutely pivotal for the triumphant execution of a messenger's duties. These vital connections were meticulously forged over many years through consistent, honest dealings, prompt and reliable remuneration, and a foundation of mutual deference. A courier who successfully cultivated a standing for probity and engaging discourse would invariably discover that access was granted more readily, intelligence circulated with greater fluidity, and assistance materialized swiftly during unforeseen exigencies. Conversely, those messengers who chose to misuse the generosity of their hosts or demonstrated chronic undependability soon found themselves ostracized from the very establishments upon which they relied for the successful prosecution of their appointed routes. The innovation of sophisticated relay systems permitted communiques to traverse distances far more swiftly than any solitary courier could achieve. Instead of a single individual undertaking an entire expedition, dispatches were seamlessly transferred between runners strategically positioned at regular junctures, thereby enabling fresh messengers to sustain peak velocity over shorter, more manageable segments. Such intricate systems demanded meticulous synchronization and unwavering dependability from every participant, as a breakdown at any single point inevitably fractured the entire operational chain. Nevertheless, when functioning optimally, relay systems possessed the unparalleled capacity to convey pressing messages with a rapidity unmatched by any other ancient mode of communication. For seasoned couriers, advanced navigation abilities became an instinctive faculty. They mastered the art of orienting themselves by observing the sun and stars, recognizing distinctive topographical features, and interpreting minute environmental cues that denoted precise direction and geographical placement. the crucial capacity to hold true to their path during nocturnal journeys, amidst dense fog, or across uncharted terrain, could fundamentally determine the outcome between a triumphant delivery and perilous, costly delays. These indispensable proficiencies were progressively honed through meticulous observation and the acute sensitivity to natural phenomena that ancient populations cultivated as an imperative for survival and transit. The profound commercial significance of dependable communication ensured that professional couriers commanded consistent engagement and garnered considerable societal esteem. Notwithstanding the inherent physical rigors of their vocation, merchants absolutely relied upon them for critical intelligence concerning prevailing market conditions, while governments entrusted them with vital diplomatic and administrative communiques. Furthermore, private citizens confided in them with personal messages essential for sustaining familial and social bonds across extensive geographical separations. This widespread reliance not only conferred a degree of job security, but also imposed substantial responsibility, given that any lapses in communication could precipitate severe repercussions for all parties implicated. As Philippus attained the midpoint of his expedition to Corinth, pausing for respite at a customary hostelry, he contemplatively mused upon the indispensable function his arduous work fulfilled in sustaining the intricate interconnections that unified Hellenic civilization. Each communique he bore symbolized a vital thread woven into the intricate tapestry of relationships encompassing political, commercial, and deeply personal dimensions that empowered widely dispersed communities to operate as a cohesive cultural entity. On the morrow, he would finalize this delivery and commence his return voyage to Athens, laden with fresh dispatches destined to perpetuate the endless circulation of intelligence that diligently preserved the ancient world's interconnectedness. One might ponder what other unheralded guardians diligently upheld the foundational framework that enabled ancient Greek civilization to thrive across such expansive territories, while couriers like Philippus diligently conveyed spoken words over great distances. The dedicated scribes of ancient Greece undertook the equally monumental task of safeguarding written words across immense epochs of time. Within a compact, windowless alcove situated beneath the bustling Athenian agora, Lysander meticulously immersed his reed pen into carefully compounded pigment, steadily continuing his laborious transcription of the legal code destined to regulate his illustrious city for succeeding epochs. Every single character demanded impeccable rendering. Each term required flawless orthography, and every line necessitated precise alignment. An inadvertent error within such pivotal legal instruments possessed the potential to distort interpretations, introduce unintended lacunae, or utterly nullify critical stipulations. This exacting vocation demanded unwavering focus, boundless forbearance, and a profound veneration for the inscribed word that remained largely incomprehensible to most individuals within this predominantly spoken tradition. The perpetuation of statutory regulations in a codified written format epitomizes one of humanity's pinnacle accomplishments, albeit one so integral to contemporary existence that its profound significance is seldom contemplated. Prior to the advent of literacy, legal principles resided solely within the confines of human memory, transmitted across successive generations of venerable judges and sagacious elders who diligently upheld verbal legacies. However, the human faculty for recollection is inherently erroneous. Exegeses of statutes inevitably evolve over the passage of time, and contentions frequently emerge concerning the precise wording and true intent of the established legal framework. Lysander, a dedicated artisan of the written word, acquired his profound expertise through time-honored methods, dedicating many years to an apprenticeship under the tutelage of venerable master scribes. These mentors imparted to him not merely the intricate mechanical proficiencies of script production, but also imbued him with a profound understanding of the weighty obligations inherent in safeguarding crucial historical and legal records. His rigorous instructional regimen commenced with the meticulous preparation of all necessary writing implements and substrates. This involved the precise fashioning of reed pens, ensuring each possessed the optimal point and pliancy for flawless inscription. The careful concoction of specialized inks, formulated to guarantee their enduring legibility across countless generations, and the elaborate conditioning of parchment and papyrus, rendering these surfaces perfectly receptive to ink and capable of retaining their structural integrity indefinitely. The corporeal exigencies inherent in the vocation of a scribe, while distinct from the strenuous labors undertaken by couriers or manual artisans, are undeniably substantial and equally taxing. Prolonged periods spent hunched over expansive writing surfaces invariably lead to the development of persistent maladies affecting the back and neck, manifesting as chronic discomfort and structural issues. The intricate, minute details demanded by the craft exert considerable duress upon the ocular organs, a strain exacerbated significantly when illumination is limited to the flickering glow of an oil lamp or the dim radiance of candlelight. Furthermore, the ceaseless, repetitive gestures involved in the act of inscription frequently induce debilitating pain in the hands and forearms. Yet, arguably, the most formidable hurdle remains the immense psychological requirement for unwavering, protracted concentration. Even a fleeting lapse in attentiveness can precipitate grievous errors, necessitating the laborious and time-consuming task of completely re-executing entire passages or even extensive sections of a document. The vast array of legal instruments entrusted to Lysander for transcription encompasses virtually every facet of communal existence within the polis. This includes a comprehensive body of commercial statutes designed to regulate intricate contractual obligations, intricate international trade agreements, and the precise delineation of property ownership. Additionally, he meticulously reproduces criminal codes that stringently define various transgressions and prescribe their corresponding retributions. Constitutional mandates that meticulously outline governmental protocols and safeguard the fundamental entitlements of citizens, and an extensive collection of administrative decrees governing everything from the daily rhythms of bustling marketplace transactions to the solemn observances of religious festivals. It is imperative to note that each distinct category of these invaluable documents necessitates unique formatting conventions, varying degrees of granular detail, and specialized methodologies for their systematic organization and intricate internal cross-referencing. Lysander's profound comprehension of the substantive content embedded within the texts he meticulously transcribes renders him an exceptionally proficient and invaluable scribe. This deep insight empowers him to discern potential inaccuracies or inconsistencies that may have inadvertently permeated original source documents, and to scrupulously uphold an unwavering uniformity in the specialized lexicon of legal terminology. His extensive grasp of Athenian jurisprudence was not acquired through conventional academic legal instruction or formal schooling. Instead, It blossomed organically from the diligent, protracted endeavor of replicating countless thousands of legal stipulations, meticulously observing the intricate interdependencies between disparate laws, and discerning the practical application of fundamental legal tenets across a myriad of specific scenarios. The foundational materials chosen for the creation of legal instruments are absolutely paramount, demanding adherence to the most exacting benchmarks of resilience and enduring longevity. Papyrus, ingeniously fabricated from the fibrous stalks of Egyptian reeds, offers a superb and readily available surface for inscription. However, its inherent vulnerability means it succumbs to deterioration with comparative swiftness when exposed to humid environmental conditions. Conversely, parchment, meticulously crafted from specially treated animal hides, represents a more significant initial investment. Yet, its superior qualities afford it a vastly extended lifespan and remarkable resistance to the wear and tear associated with frequent manipulation. For the preservation of the most critically important and enduring records, scribes invariably select the very finest grade of parchment obtainable, painstakingly prepared through ancient, refined techniques specifically designed to optimize its protracted existence and formidable immunity against fading, fracturing, or any other detrimental forms of degradation. The complex realm of inks introduces its own distinct set of formidable challenges, for an improperly composed formulation can, over the passage of time, tragically lose its vibrancy, bleed uncontrollably, or even corrosively erode the very writing surface it was meant to adorn. The most superior quality inks, those destined for the creation of enduring and unalterable documents, are meticulously compounded from precisely calibrated blends of finely ground carbon black and specialized binding agents. These sophisticated mixtures are engineered to deeply permeate the fibers of the writing substrate, rather than merely resting superficially upon its exterior. Such high-performance inks necessitate regular, fresh preparation, as prolonged storage inevitably causes them to thicken, rendering them unwieldy and impractical for precise application. Indeed, the skillful synthesis of an exemplary ink transcends mere craft. It approaches an arcane art form, demanding a profound understanding of chemical principles, an intimate familiarity with material science, and a keen appreciation for the unique demands presented by various categories of documents. The intricate process of inscription itself adheres to a rigorous sequence of established protocols, meticulously conceived to drastically reduce the incidence of transcriptional errors and to guarantee an unswerving uniformity across all reproductions. Initially, Lysander undertakes a scrupulous and analytical perusal of the original source document. During this critical preliminary phase, he vigilantly identifies any nascent issues, ambiguous phrases, or perplexing sections that absolutely demand clarification before the actual copying endeavor can commence. Following this exhaustive review, he meticulously devises the comprehensive layout for the forthcoming document, precisely estimating the spatial requirements for each distinct segment, strategically determining the optimal placement of page divisions, and orchestrating the textual arrangement to ensure both paramount readability and maximal utility for legal interpretation. The actual transcription, the physical act of rendering the text, is executed through a series of carefully delineated stages, each incorporating inherent mechanisms designed to detect and rectify any potential inaccuracies. The initial phase involves the production of a preliminary draft, often referred to as a rough copy. At this juncture, The paramount objective is the faithful and complete capture of all textual content, with less immediate emphasis placed upon achieving immaculate formatting. This nascent version then undergoes an exhaustive and painstaking proofreading, wherein every single word is rigorously compared against the original source document, and all identified discrepancies are meticulously amended. It is only upon the successful completion of this exhaustive verification process that the work on the definitive, final version commences, a rendition that must invariably fulfill the most exacting criteria for legibility, aesthetic formatting, and overall physical presentation. Legal instruments, by their very nature, demand an exceptional degree of meticulousness in their formatting and structural organization, precisely engineered to maximize their utility as practical reference tools. Consequently, all interconnected legal provisions must be logically collated and presented with unequivocally clear headings and distinct subheadings, thereby enabling users to swiftly pinpoint specific pieces of information. Furthermore, any internal cross-references linking disparate sections must be executed with impeccable accuracy and prove genuinely beneficial in guiding the reader. Crucial definitions and foundational legal principles require prominent highlighting or strategic placement within the text to ensure their effortless retrieval. Accomplishing this comprehensive level of precision and utility necessitates not merely a mastery of transcription techniques, but also a sophisticated editorial discernment and a profound grasp of the practical scenarios in which these documents will ultimately be employed. The secure custodianship and enduring preservation of finalized legal documents introduce a persistent series of formidable challenges, responsibilities that extend far beyond the initial labor of transcription. These invaluable records demand rigorous safeguarding against a multitude of destructive agents, including pervasive moisture, insidious insects, destructive rodents, catastrophic fire, and the pervasive threat of human inadvertence. Furthermore, their systematic arrangement is critical, necessitating storage methodologies that facilitate the rapid and unerring retrieval of specific items whenever required. They also mandate regular, scheduled inspections and proactive maintenance to identify any nascent signs of degradation before such deterioration progresses to an irreparable state. Perhaps most crucially, these vital texts must be periodically retranscribed to generate fresh, pristine versions, thereby ensuring their continued accessibility long before the original manuscripts become too compromised to decipher. The profound societal significance attributed to impeccably accurate legal records confers upon scribes, such as Lysander, positions of immense public trust and weighty accountability. Individual citizens, enterprising merchants, and authoritative government functionaries alike place their absolute reliance upon these meticulously crafted legal documents. They serve as bulwarks for the safeguarding of fundamental rights, provide the indispensable framework for the equitable resolution of intricate disputes, and offer authoritative counsel when navigating perplexing circumstances. Consequently, even minor inaccuracies introduced during the legal transcription process can precipitate gravely serious repercussions, potentially nullifying legally binding contracts, inadvertently bestowing unjust advantages upon certain litigants, or rendering it utterly impossible to definitively ascertain the precise legal mandates applicable in particular situations. The meticulously curated working environment of legal scribes serves as a palpable testament to the critical significance of their exacting vocation. Lysander's dedicated copying chamber, for instance, is purposefully engineered to furnish the most conducive conditions for his intricate textual labors. It boasts ample, consistent illumination, a comfortably regulated ambient temperature, and robust insulation against disruptive noise and unwelcome intrusions. The custom-designed furniture within the space is strategically arranged to encourage and sustain optimal posture, thereby significantly mitigating physical strain over prolonged periods. Writing surfaces are precisely calibrated and positioned at the ideal height and angle to further enhance comfort and precision. Furthermore, sophisticated storage systems meticulously maintain all necessary materials in a state of impeccable organization and ready accessibility. Every single element within this specialized workspace is harmoniously configured to foster unparalleled accuracy, maximize operational efficiency, and ensure the long-term preservation of invaluable documents. For monumental undertakings, such as the transcription of entire legal codes or the compilation of exhaustive administrative archives, collaborative effort among multiple scribes becomes an indispensable imperative. In such scenarios, various scribes might simultaneously dedicate their expertise to distinct sections of the overarching project. This division of labor absolutely necessitates exceptionally meticulous coordination to guarantee an unwavering consistency in formatting conventions, the precise application of specialized terminology, and the seamless integration of internal cross-references. Periodically scheduled assemblies provide a vital forum for scribes to collectively deliberate upon emerging challenges, disseminate effective solutions, and uphold the elevated standards that are intrinsically demanded by legal documentation. This integrated, collaborative methodology furthermore instills robust safeguards against individual transcriptional errors, given that multiple discerning eyes scrutinize each document prior to its official declaration as complete. The profound intellectual demands inherent in legal transcription transcend the rudimentary act of mere literal reproduction, encompassing sophisticated processes of interpretation, systematic organization, and refined editorial discernment. Legal phraseology frequently incorporates highly specialized technical terms, intricate syntactical constructions, and often alludes to a plethora of other foundational documents or established legal principles. It is incumbent upon scribes to possess a sufficiently deep comprehension of these multifaceted complexities, enabling them to astutely perceive instances where a passage might lack logical coherence, where internal cross-references are demonstrably erroneous, or where particular formatting decisions could inadvertently sow confusion among future users of these critical records. The comprehensive education of nascent scribes extends far beyond the mere impartation of mechanical proficiencies. It fundamentally involves the inculcation of specific attitudes and rigorous work habits that are absolutely indispensable for the exacting demands of legal transcription. A meticulous attention to the minutest particulars, an unwavering patience for inherently repetitive tasks, a profound sense of pride derived from impeccable accuracy, and a clear understanding of the overarching societal significance of their labor, are all virtues that must be assiduously cultivated through hands-on experience and dedicated mentorship. Venerable master scribes, exemplified by individuals like Lysander, embrace this crucial instructional responsibility with utmost gravity, acutely aware that the enduring quality and reliability of future legal documentation are directly contingent upon the thoroughness with which they prepare their successors. The financial dimensions of scribal craftsmanship serve as a direct mirror, reflecting the immense societal esteem accorded to meticulously accurate legal archives. Consequently, professional scribes consistently command commendable remuneration, enjoy the security of stable employment, and are afforded considerable social reverence. The premium materials and specialized implements they utilize, such as superior-grade parchment, imperishable inks, and purpose-designed tools, collectively represent substantial financial outlays. These are investments that communities willingly undertake, fully cognizant of the paramount importance of possessing unequivocally trustworthy legal documentation. This robust economic endorsement empowers scribes to prioritize the unparalleled quality of their output over mere rapidity, thereby enabling them to produce enduring documents destined to serve their respective communities for countless generations to come. As the twilight hues begin to paint the horizon and Lysander brings another intricate segment of the legal code to its meticulous completion, a profound sense of serene contentment settles upon him. This quiet gratification stems from the profound realization that his labors serve a purpose far transcending transient, immediate requirements. The invaluable textual pronouncements he has painstakingly safeguarded on this very day are destined to inform critical legal judgments, vigorously protect the fundamental entitlements of citizens, and uphold the delicate equilibrium of social order long after his own name has faded from memory. His unwavering meticulousness, his steadfast dedication to absolute precision, and his perceptive grasp of the expansive significance of codified law collectively contribute foundational pillars to the edifice of a civilized society. With the dawning of the new day, he will embark upon yet another section, perpetuating the ceaseless yet utterly vital endeavor of enshrining human knowledge in an immutable, permanent format. Human knowledge in permanent form. What other patient guardians of knowledge helped maintain the intellectual foundations of ancient Greek civilization? Just as scribes like Lysander diligently preserved the intricate legal frameworks that governed ancient Greek society, the dedicated salt gatherers of the Aegean Sea performed an equally critical function, ensuring the preservation of the food that sustained its very existence. Theodorus, a seasoned artisan of the coast, immerses himself in the placid, sun-drenched lagoons near Marathon. He experiences the gentle, warm caress of the saline water against his lower limbs, signaling the commencement of yet another day dedicated to extracting what was, in ancient times, among the most coveted and indispensable resources. While contemporary society often regards salt as an ordinary, ubiquitous substance, its status in the ancient world was profoundly different. It genuinely commanded a value equivalent to its mass in silver. Its critical applications ranged from the indispensable preservation of foodstuffs to the meticulous curing of hides and a myriad of other fundamental processes, all of which collectively underpinned the very possibility of an organized, civilized existence. The intricate methodology of extracting salt from the vast expanse of seawater demands an exceptional degree of patience, precise timing, and an ingrained, profound understanding of specific local environmental variables, insights that can only be cultivated through many years of dedicated observation and practical experience. Over his extensive tenure, Theodorus has assiduously cultivated the ability to decipher the nuanced indicators that precisely signal the optimal confluence of circumstances for superior salt yields. This involves discerning the perfect interplay of atmospheric temperature, ambient humidity levels, prevailing wind directions and velocities, and the intricate rhythms of tidal cycles, all conspiring to forge the quintessential milieu for efficient natural evaporation. A superabundance of rainfall, for instance, would invariably dilute the concentrated brine, rendering it less potent. Conversely, an insufficient duration or intensity of solar exposure would significantly impede the evaporative process. Furthermore, an overly forceful or sustained wind could tragically disperse the nascent precious salt crystals before they could be carefully collected. The expansive salt flats where Theodorus diligently plies his trade are not the product of spontaneous geological processes, but rather represent meticulously engineered complexes of shallow basins and intricate waterways. These sophisticated systems have been painstakingly developed and sustained through the collective wisdom and labor of countless generations of salt gatherers. Every individual pond within this network is fastidiously leveled to guarantee a uniform depth of water, a critical factor for consistent evaporation. Their bases are meticulously lined with impermeable clay, effectively preventing any undesirable seepage, while strategically placed wooden gates precisely regulate the flow of water between the various interconnected sections. Moreover, the crucial channels that introduce fresh seawater into this elaborate system are subjected to rigorous, routine cleaning, a preventative measure against obstructions caused by accumulating sand, intrusive seaweed, or other miscellaneous detritus that tempestuous storms might sweep in from the deeper marine environment. The serene hours of early morning are universally acknowledged as the most propitious period for conducting inspections of the salt ponds. At this time, the ambient air retains a refreshing coolness, and the cumulative effects of overnight evaporation have optimally concentrated the brine to its ideal salinity. With deliberate, measured movements, Theodorus navigates through the shallow expanse of water. Wielding a lengthy wooden rake, he meticulously probes the bed of each pond, listening intently for the unmistakable, crisp sound, the distinctive crunch that signifies the successful formation of salt crystals upon the smooth clay surface. This auditory cue is singularly unique, sharply contrasting with the yielding squelch of submerged mud or the abrasive scrape produced by dislodged shells and pebbles. Upon identifying a pond that has reached its peak readiness for harvesting, he carefully delineates its precise position by inserting a wooden stake, ensuring he can accurately return equipped with the specialized implements required for extraction. The act of harvesting salt transcends mere manual exertion. It is an intricate art form demanding acute sensitivity and refined technique. The delicate crystals necessitate collection at an impeccably precise juncture. A premature attempt would yield particles that are undersized and intermingled with undesirable impurities, while any delay would risk their gradual dissolution back into the concentrated brine. Theodorus employs a purpose-built implement, ingeniously designed as a hybrid of a rake and a scoop, featuring finely spaced wooden tines. This clever construction permits the efficient drainage of water, while securely ensnaring the precious, newly formed salt crystals. Each individual scoop must be executed with utmost circumspection, a deliberate maneuver intended to prevent the disturbance of the fine sediment resting on the pond's floor. Such agitation would invariably lead to the contamination of the pristine white salt with undesirable mud and other particulate debris, compromising its quality. Once gathered, the salt is meticulously deposited into specially crafted woven baskets, each meticulously lined with a permeable cloth. This ingenious design facilitates the gradual escape of any superfluous brine while securely containing the valuable crystalline harvest. These laden receptacles are then strategically positioned upon elevated wooden platforms, ensuring they remain well above the ambient water level. This arrangement harnesses the fundamental force of gravity, allowing it to perform the majority of the laborious separation of liquid from solid material. This crucial stage of the process absolutely forbids haste. Any attempt to accelerate the dewatering by squeezing or pressing the salt would inevitably result in the crushing of the delicate crystals, thereby significantly diminishing the overall quality of the eventual product. Consequently, Theodorus thoughtfully arranges the baskets in a precise configuration, a deliberate pattern optimized to enhance both air circulation and efficient drainage. Rigorous quality control constitutes an absolutely indispensable aspect of salt production, primarily because distinct grades of this essential commodity are destined for varied applications and consequently command disparate market values. The most exquisite, pristine white crystals, entirely devoid of any discernible discoloration or extraneous foreign particles, are scrupulously set aside for the critical tasks of food preservation and culinary seasoning. These premium crystals are typically destined for discerning, affluent households, esteemed professional chefs, and specialized merchants engaged in the lucrative trade of luxury provisions. Conversely, the lower grades of salt, which may permissibly incorporate minor inclusions of sand or organic particulate matter, are deemed entirely appropriate and highly effective for processes such as the robust curing of leather, the intricate dyeing of textiles, or various other industrial applications, where an absolute degree of purity is less paramount than sheer volumetric quantity. The enterprise of salt gathering extends far beyond the mere physical labor of extraction, demanding meticulous vigilance regarding prevailing market conditions and the cultivation of robust customer relationships. Theodorus assiduously nurtures vital connections with a diverse network of clients. The merchants responsible for conveying the precious commodity to distant inland urban centers, the food preservers who rely on a consistent and dependable supply for the viability of their operations, and the discerning, affluent households who consistently appreciate the unwavering quality of his meticulously produced salt. These invaluable professional bonds are meticulously forged and solidified over many years, founded upon a bedrock of reliable and punctual deliveries, transparent and honest commercial dealings, and an unblemished reputation for consistently delivering a product that precisely fulfills the unique and specific requirements of each individual client. The unpredictable vicissitudes of weather perpetually introduce formidable challenges, necessitating both adaptable responsiveness and astute long-term strategic foresight from the salt gatherer. A protracted period of intense rainfall, potentially lasting a week, possesses the capacity to utterly compromise an entire developing consignment of salt, compelling the gatherer to completely empty the ponds and initiate the arduous process anew with fresh seawater. Furthermore, severe meteorological disturbances, such as powerful storms, can inflict considerable damage upon the meticulously constructed and maintained pond infrastructure. Such incidents demand immediate and diligent repairs to avert the catastrophic loss of concentrated brine, a precious commodity representing many weeks of painstaking and patient labor. Prolonged stretches of overcast conditions also significantly impede the natural evaporative process, resulting in an accumulating backlog of partially formed salt that requires scrupulous management to prevent its deterioration and spoilage. The inherent seasonal rhythms governing salt production dictate that the preponderance of the annual yield must be meticulously collected during the arid summer months, a period characterized by peak evaporation rates and negligible rainfall. This cyclical imperative engenders intensely demanding phases of heightened activity, subsequently succeeded by more tranquil periods, during which focus shifts towards essential maintenance, comprehensive repairs, and diligent preparation for the forthcoming operational season. Throughout the dormant winter months, Theodorus dedicates himself to the meticulous restoration and enhancement of his elaborate pond systems. Concurrently, he engages in crucial negotiations to secure contractual agreements with his clientele for the ensuing year, and undertakes the systematic processing of the accumulated salt from the previous summer's bountiful harvests, sorting it into its respective grades and preparing it for final packaging. The diverse array of tools and specialized equipment indispensable for the art of salt gathering represents valuable assets that demand an equivalent degree of meticulous upkeep as the salt ponds themselves. Wooden implements, for instance, are regularly anointed with specific oils, a practice designed to inhibit decay and rot without introducing any contaminants that could compromise the purity of the salt. All metallic constituents are assiduously preserved from the corrosive effects of rust, which would otherwise impart an undesirable discoloration to the finished product. Similarly, the woven baskets are diligently mended or entirely replaced well before any signs of wear might manifest as gaps or perforations, which would inevitably lead to the loss of precious salt. Even the fabric linings, seemingly minor components, necessitate painstaking selection and diligent maintenance. Various textile weaves are chosen for their distinct drainage properties, and any dyes or chemical treatments, however innocuous they might appear, must be rigorously vetted to ensure they do not subtly alter the taste or visual appeal of the final salt product. The profound body of knowledge prerequisite for consistently successful salt production encompasses a sophisticated grasp of chemistry, meteorology, and rudimentary engineering principles, a synthesis of expertise that stands comparable to the most intricate and demanding ancient crafts. Salt gatherers are compelled to comprehend the intricate mechanisms by which various dissolved minerals selectively crystallize at distinct concentrations within the brine. They must also possess an intuitive understanding of how atmospheric pressure subtly influences and modulates evaporation rates, and crucially, how to meticulously design and sustain complex hydraulic systems, capable of precisely regulating water movement across an array of interconnected ponds. This invaluable, multifaceted wisdom is traditionally transmitted through closely knit family lineages or via rigorous apprenticeship programs, ensuring the enduring preservation of both highly practical, hands-on techniques and the underlying theoretical understanding. The economic dimensions of the ancient salt trade vividly underscore the fundamentally indispensable character of this commodity within the fabric of ancient society. The arduous yet consistent endeavor of salt gathering offers a reliable stream of income throughout its productive season, coupled with periodic opportunities to command premium prices, particularly when supply is constrained by adverse meteorological conditions or unforeseen external factors. While the undertaking necessitates a substantial initial capital outlay for the construction of specialized ponds and the acquisition of necessary equipment, these considerable expenditures are typically recouped over an extended period of sustained production. Critically, the market demand for salt remains consistently high and remarkably predictable. It is a universal necessity, and for the vast majority of its myriad applications, there exist no genuinely effective or viable substitutes. A healthy degree of competition among the various salt gatherers actively fosters innovation and consistently drives improvements in product quality, all while paradoxically sustaining crucial cooperative relationships, vital for the communal exchange of specialized knowledge and shared resources. While neighboring gatherers may certainly contend for the most lucrative clientele and the most advantageous pricing, they simultaneously engage in a reciprocal exchange of critical intelligence concerning impending weather patterns, evolving market dynamics, and valuable technical advancements that ultimately redound to the benefit of the entire industry. During unforeseen crises, such as devastating major storms or critical equipment malfunctions, these erstwhile competitors seamlessly transform into indispensable collaborators, readily lending essential tools, sharing precious workspace, or furnishing temporary labor to mutually assist one another in sustaining their vital production. The societal standing accorded to salt gatherers subtly mirrors the fundamental significance of their essential commodity, simultaneously acknowledging the strenuous physical exertions and inherent economic unpredictability that characterize their livelihood. These individuals are held in esteem as exceptionally skilled artisans who render an indispensable service to the community. However, despite their vital contribution, they typically do not accrue substantial wealth or exert significant influence within the broader political or cultural spheres of ancient society. Their primary social affiliations and professional networks are predominantly forged with others intimately involved in the intricate processes of food production and preservation, including diligent farmers, skilled bakers, enterprising merchants, and conscientious householders, all of whom profoundly grasp the practical imperative of securing consistent and dependable access to superior quality salt. As the day progresses into the early afternoon and the sun ascends to its zenith, casting its most intense rays, Theodorus meticulously concludes his morning inspections and initiates the precise operation of conveying the freshly harvested salt to designated storage facilities. Here, the crystals will undergo further desiccation before their ultimate preparation and packaging for market. The myriad warm crystals, imbued with the day's radiant energy, shimmer with an almost ethereal brilliance under the bright sunlight, each minute facet glinting like a precious, diminutive diamond. Every single crystal embodies the culmination of hours of patient toil and an unwavering, scrupulous observation of natural phenomena, processes that have unfolded in precisely the same manner for uncounted generations. His unwavering, systematic dedication to this venerable craft not only plays an indispensable role in safeguarding the foodstuffs that nourish his community, but also actively perpetuates time-honored traditions, forging an unbroken link between him and the countless preceding generations of salt gatherers who diligently labored across these very same coastal expanses, who had previously navigated these very same coastal waters. Beyond the vital work of these maritime laborers, what other fundamental vocations were instrumental in enabling the ancient Greeks to transmute raw natural resources into the sophisticated materials that underpinned their civilized existence? While the diligent salt gatherers, epitomized by figures like Theodorus, attune themselves to the relentless ebb and flow of the sea and the contours of the shore. The pastoralists of Arcadia, such as Aristomos, lived in harmony with the more gradual, profound rhythms of the majestic mountains and verdant pastures. Aristomos, with practiced ease, guides his robust flock along ancient, well-trodden pathways that meander through venerable oak groves and stretch across meadows liberally strewn with vibrant wildflowers. He meticulously follows routes that have been faithfully utilized by an unbroken lineage of countless shepherding generations before his time. The majestic mountains of Arcadia ascend skyward in a series of gentle, undulating swells, their expansive slopes generously carpeted with an abundance of the specific grasses and aromatic herbs renowned for yielding the sweetest milk and the most exquisite wool throughout the entirety of Greece. The demanding occupation of shepherding within these formidable mountains necessitates a deeply intuitive and comprehensive understanding of the terrain, extending far beyond the mere recognition of where verdant grass flourishes. Aristomos possesses an uncanny ability to decipher impending meteorological shifts by observing the distinctive manner in which clouds coalesce around particular peaks. He can accurately forecast the availability of vital water sources by discerning the subtle coloration of vegetation in distant valleys and adeptly pinpoint secure refugee locations that will afford his precious flock protection from the sudden onset of violent storms or the stealthy approach of predatory creatures. This invaluable repository of knowledge has been meticulously transmitted through the annals of his family for countless generations, rigorously refined through hands-on experience and astute observation, culminating in an exhaustive comprehension of how to harmoniously collaborate with natural systems rather than contending against their inherent forces. The sheep themselves are emphatically not the stereotypical fluffy, complacent creatures commonly associated with contemporary agricultural enterprises. Rather, they are resilient, remarkably intelligent animals exquisitely adapted to the arduous demands of mountain life. These sagacious oven companions have been assiduously trained to respond to Aristomos's intricate signals. A distinct whistle that communicates the imperative to ascend uphill, a precise hand gesture that unequivocally indicates the necessity to maintain cohesion, and a subtle alteration in his walking cadence that serves as a prescient warning of potential hazards looming ahead. The profound relationship between this dedicated shepherd and his devoted flock is firmly anchored in a foundation of mutual understanding and unwavering trust, meticulously cultivated over numerous years of shared experiences within challenging and often perilous environments where unreserved cooperation is absolutely indispensable for their collective survival. Each successive season unfurls a distinct array of formidable challenges and promising opportunities, each demanding meticulous foresight and highly adaptable responses from the shepherd. The arrival of spring heralds the arduous task of guiding the flock to higher altitude pastures as the accumulated snow melts away and fresh, tender grass begins its vigorous resurgence. Yet it simultaneously entails navigating treacherous muddy trails, fording swollen, fast-flowing streams, and managing the demanding birthing season when ewes require an elevated degree of focused attention and vigilant protection. Summer, while offering the most abundant and nourishing grazing opportunities, concurrently introduces the inherent perils of debilitating drought, intensely scorching temperatures, and the heightened activity of various predators, which become more audacious when food sources are plentiful. Autumn, in turn, mandates diligent preparations for the impending winter. necessitating the meticulous building up of the flock's physical condition while progressively transitioning them to lower, more sheltered grazing areas that offer greater protection from the elements. The daily cadence of shepherding life adheres to discernible patterns that are simultaneously predictable in their general structure and endlessly variable in their specific manifestations. The early morning hours invariably commence with a thorough inspection of each individual animal for any discernible indications of illness or injury. A precise head count of the entire flock to ensure that no member has strayed during the nocturnal hours, and a comprehensive assessment of prevailing weather conditions to meticulously plan the day's migratory movements. The flock then proceeds at a measured pace through the diverse landscape, punctuated by frequent, deliberate stops for grazing, quenching their thirst at water sources, and periods of essential rest. The afternoon typically ushers in the highest temperatures, during which the sheep instinctively seek the cool respite of shade, and Aristomos judiciously utilizes this quieter interlude for practical tasks such as effecting repairs on equipment, verifying the contents of supply caches, or diligently scouting out optimal routes for the following day's journey across the expansive terrain. Navigating the intricate and often perilous mountain terrain demands a specialized skill set that seamlessly integrates profound practical knowledge with an intuitive grasp of animal behavior and the inherent workings of natural systems. Aristomos meticulously interprets the variegated landscape as if it were an intricately detailed map, assiduously noting prominent landmarks, observing seasonal transformations, and discerning subtle environmental cues that collectively indicate the most advantageous routes for differing conditions. He possesses an intimate awareness of which particular paths become utterly impassable after torrential rainfall, which specific areas are susceptible to precarious rockslides, and which meadows consistently provide the most superior grazing at various junctures throughout the annual cycle. This meticulously constructed mental map is in a state of perpetual revision, constantly updated based on fresh observations and the ever-shifting environmental conditions. The essential equipment employed in mountain shepherding is chosen with the utmost discernment, prioritizing unwavering durability, optimal functionality, and ease of portability. Aristomos invariably carries a robust staff that fulfills a multitude of crucial purposes. It serves as an indispensable walking aid across uneven ground, a practical implement for deftly guiding recalcitrant sheep, a formidable weapon for self-defense against potential predators, and a reliable measuring device for accurately gauging the depth of flowing streams or accumulated snow. His protective cloak, meticulously woven from the finest local wool, provides exceptional warmth even when saturated and offers steadfast protection from both biting winds and the scorching sun. Water containers, vital food provisions, and essential repair materials are all selected based on their superior weight-to-utility ratio and their inherent capacity to withstand the rigors of rough handling in demanding and unforgiving conditions. The critical task of predator management necessitates unceasing vigilance and the strategic deployment of a diverse array of methodologies that judiciously balance the imperative protection of the flock with a profound respect for the delicate equilibrium of the natural ecosystem. Formidable apex predators such as wolves, bears, and large felines all present significant potential threats, but so too do smaller, more opportunistic predators like foxes, which might target vulnerable young lambs or infirm animals. Aristomos effectively utilizes highly specialized guard dogs, meticulously trained specifically for the arduous demands of mountain work. But he also shrewdly employs supplementary techniques, such as the strategic positioning of his flock in defensible locations, the careful timing of their movements through particularly vulnerable areas, and the creation of temporary barriers using natural topographical features or readily portable materials. The intricate social dimensions of shepherding entail assiduously cultivating and maintaining robust connections with fellow herders, engaging with local communities, and actively participating in the broader, interconnected network of individuals involved in the production of wool and dairy products. Shepherds routinely share invaluable information concerning optimal grazing conditions, prevailing weather patterns, observed predator activity, and current market prices through informal, yet highly effective networks that span the entire geographical region. They meticulously coordinate their movements to prevent the detrimental overgrazing of specific areas and provide indispensable mutual support during unforeseen emergencies or particularly challenging environmental conditions. These vital relationships are nurtured through regular convocations at traditional gathering places, participation in seasonal festivals, and the time-honored hospitality that shepherds graciously extend to weary travelers venturing through remote territories. Effective breeding management mandates meticulous long-term planning and the diligent maintenance of detailed record-keeping, all designed to ensure the enduring health and sustained productivity of the flock across multiple successive generations. Aristomos assiduously tracks bloodlines, vigilantly monitors breeding success rates, and makes judicious decisions regarding which animals to retain for future breeding, which to sell to external markets, and which to trade with other herders to strategically introduce new, beneficial genetic material. These pivotal decisions are predicated upon a complex interplay of factors such as the inherent quality of the wool, the volume of milk production, the animal's natural resistance to various diseases, and their proven adaptability to the often harsh mountain conditions, attributes that may not become fully apparent until the animals attain full maturity. Seasonal festivals and deeply ingrained religious observances provide invaluable opportunities for shepherds to congregate, exchange vital information, and steadfastly uphold cultural traditions that inextricably link them to their rich historical and profound spiritual heritage. The venerable worship of Pan, the revered goat-footed deity of shepherds and untamed wild places, encompasses ancient rituals that explicitly acknowledge the fundamental dependence of human communities on the intricate tapestry of natural systems and the inherent responsibility that accompanies the dedicated care of domestic animals within wild, untamed environments. These profound observances serve to reinforce the ethical dimensions of shepherding and provide essential spiritual resources for confronting the inherent isolation and formidable challenges endemic to mountain life. The intricate economic facets of shepherding involve navigating multiple distinct income streams, each demanding a different specialized body of knowledge and a keen awareness of market dynamics. Revenue generated from wool sales is critically dependent on factors such as fleece quality, opportune timing of sales, and established relationships with processors who transform raw fleece into refined, finished products. Dairy products, including artisanal cheese and fresh milk, necessitate a comprehensive understanding of effective food preservation techniques, logistical considerations for transportation, and the nuanced preferences of discerning customers. The sale of live animals involves the astute evaluation of breeding stock, the assessment of meat quality, and an understanding of fluctuating market demand, which varies significantly on both a seasonal and regional basis. Consequently, Truly successful shepherds must possess a holistic understanding of all these diverse markets and meticulously tailor their management practices accordingly. Exceptional weather monitoring and responsive capabilities represent indispensable skills that can fundamentally differentiate between financial prosperity and catastrophic disaster. Within the challenging domain of mountain shepherding, Aristomos has painstakingly cultivated the ability to interpret subtle, often imperceptible signs that accurately foretell impending changes in meteorological conditions. The nuanced behavior of wild animals, the distinctive appearance of specific cloud formations, and the precise direction and intensity of winds that carry moisture from distant seas. This profound knowledge empowers him to swiftly guide his flock to safety before severe storms fully materialize, to locate secure shelter during periods of extreme weather, and to judiciously capitalize on favorable conditions for crucial activities such as shearing or breeding. The comprehensive training of young shepherds extends far beyond the mere transmission of technical proficiencies. It fundamentally involves instilling the essential attitudes and robust character traits that the rigors of mountain life unequivocally demand. Qualities such as unwavering patience, resolute self-reliance, meticulous observation skills, and a profound respect for natural systems must all be painstakingly developed through hands-on experience and dedicated mentorship. Furthermore, exceptional physical fitness, unwavering mental resilience, and the critical ability to make sound, timely decisions under immense pressure are equally paramount. Master shepherds like Aristomos undertake this profound responsibility with the utmost solemnity, acutely aware that the venerable traditions and invaluable knowledge they meticulously impart will ultimately determine the success and perpetuation of future generations. The judicious conservation and sustainable utilization of mountain pastures necessitate a sophisticated understanding of ecological principles that contemporary environmentalists are only just beginning to fully appreciate. Shepherds, through centuries of accumulated practical experience, have intrinsically learned how to effectively manage grazing pressure, proactively prevent soil erosion, meticulously maintain plant biodiversity, and harmoniously work with natural succession processes to ensure that pastures remain robustly productive over numerous generations. Their time-honored practices encompass controlled burning techniques, the strategic timing of grazing rotations, and the vigilant protection of particularly sensitive areas during vulnerable periods such as prolonged drought or extreme weather events. The harsh realities of the pastoral existence often present formidable obstacles, such as prolonged periods of aridity or sudden severe climatic events. These environmental adversities, whether a parching drought that withers the pastures or tempestuous extreme weather systems, perpetually challenge the shepherd's resilience and ingenuity, demanding constant vigilance to safeguard the well-being of the vulnerable flock against nature's unforgiving caprices. Beyond the immediate exigencies of animal husbandry, the profound intellectual facets of shepherding encompass a deep contemplation of humanity's intricate bond with the natural world, a rigorous examination of the profound essence of responsible stewardship, and a thoughtful consideration of the ethical principles that ought to inform human engagement with all other living beings. The tranquil isolation and breathtaking grandeur of alpine settings offer unparalleled avenues for introspection and philosophical rumination, opportunities that are seldom found amidst the bustle of densely inhabited regions. Consequently, many individuals who embrace the shepherd's vocation cultivate an acute understanding of the intricate workings and mutual reliance inherent in ecological frameworks, coupled with a profound sense of modesty regarding humankind's often overestimated position within the expansive, interconnected tapestry of existence. This fosters a reverence for the delicate balance of ecosystems, recognizing the interconnectedness of all life. With the descent of dusk, Aristomos meticulously steers his charges towards a secluded pasturage where they are destined to spend the night, experiencing a profound contentment stemming from a day's effective guardianship in one of the planet's most breathtaking yet arduous surroundings. The sheep, with their innate wisdom, promptly establish their nightly customs, partaking of forage, interacting with one another in quiet murmurs, and slowly easing into slumber. Meanwhile, their diligent shepherd erects his modest encampment and readies himself for a vigil under the celestial canopy, where stars twinkle with exceptional luminosity in the crisp, clear mountain air. His diligent and adept attention to these animals not only contributes vitally to the sustenance of the settlements nestled in the lower regions, but also plays a crucial role in upholding venerable customs, forging a tangible bond that connects him to countless predecessors in his vocation, generations of shepherds who discovered profound significance and objective in this arduous yet undeniably gratifying existence. The soft murmurs of the flock coming to rest, the faint calls of nocturnal avians from afar, and the rustling breeze through the arboreal canopy collectively compose a soothing melody that has resonated through these majestic mountains for millennia, imbued with the tranquility and perpetual cadences that arise from coexisting synergistically with the ecological realm. It appears the text provided for paraphrasing is incomplete, consisting solely of the fragment RLD. To effectively undertake the intricate process of rephrasing, which necessitates the preservation of original length and structure, the expansion of thoughts with illustrative details, and the application of diverse linguistic tools, a complete and coherent passage is indispensable. Without a substantive source text, the task of maintaining factual consistency, ensuring main idea clarity, and upholding a specific journalistic narrative style becomes unfeasible. A comprehensive original piece is required to accurately fulfill the outlined parameters for an enriched and structurally equivalent rendition.